send me that, so I'll have it.
Send you what?
We're gonna be.
Kelby, yeah.
Oh, really?
Just email her, like, wait, do you need?
Just for when we host, so.
Yeah, that's what she gave that to me,
Okay.
and this is.
All right, we gotta go back. How's everybody doing?
Yeah, it's. Well, but, so my dog had surgery. Thought it was a tooth to be extracted, like 2 weeks ago. So when they got in there. It was more than that. They've separated four of the teeth.
They did.
We didn't do right. Part of the soft tissue and stuff. And sent that out to the lab. Oh. I know. I don't know exactly.
Readable or not?
So. I got this scan. Find out exactly what the cancer is in this group of cancers. So you run that test, then you have to go to the oncologist. Then find out what name on the list, looks like it's really a straight dog.
Oh, I am.
Oh, yeah?
Yep.
Okay, sorry about that.
No, you're good.
Okay, now we're talking.
Sandy's on here, so I can leave it with her.
Right there, yeah, yeah.
Chairman? Chairwoman? Something like that. I don't
Something like
know
that.
whatever the Official word.
You get
is.
hammer woman.
Hey, did you talk to Andrew about the appointment dates? I think the county's got everything all screwed up.
I think, Shelby had sent me something and then I sent back,
So what do
as
you?
long as I've been here, the county appointees end on 11:30, like, of the.
Right.
And then all of the entity ones end on 9:30. And that's the way, it's been, other than what somebody, when they appoint someone to fill the rest of the term.
But is that truly what is supposed to happen, or is it? See, I don't think it is.
So
That's why, because I got an email from Justin Graham from the county saying that my service time is December 1st of 2024 through November 30th, 26, which would be right.
Right.
No, it wouldn't be. Because I started in 23.
But you took some.
a softener filtration
No.
system.
No.
Hey,
Commissioner Long.
you didn't finish somebody else's term?
$42 installed.
No.
Hi.
Hi, Commissioner.
Hi, treasurer.
I've got two tanks. And the.
This guy's telling me.
So, yeah, I mean, but that's confusing as all.
There's
Yeah.
there's pizza, everybody, pizza.
Because if, I mean, Erica doesn't
Hell, they
have
have.
from November 1st
But
or December 1st of 24 through November 30th. of 23. As well,
Williams.
because I think they look at it as it goes by once the commissioner appoints, not the term that they're appointing from.
Yeah, that's the thing. I didn't find anything that clarified.
You're next to me, kid.
Oh, good.
Andy's on vacation again.
Again, doesn't he always?
Still, I'm sorry.
I sucked it.
Well, we had a meeting at 4 with the Main Street. I'm like, what do I want? Cause I don't eat pizza. It's like, what do I want? I'm getting a Frosty. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah, that works.
and I said, actually, it helps clean it.
You wanna see this?
That's not fill-in lunch.
Right? You wanna see it? Just pictures I got from the architect and pass it on. All the directors have
Well, I
seen.
don't know if I can.
That's not, I don't, never seen you wearing glasses.
Actually, I do have something underneath. I can have.
He's trying to look distinguished tonight.
I'm trying to find out. I think I have.
How we want to do it.
Right there.
Discuss it. Are we doing it in church report or new business? You're ready.
That's that Maggie face.
So you're not using the check scanner, you're just.
You fancy that?
No, that's
You're
fancy.
official.
Yeah, that was on our bills. We had to pay
Yeah,
for that.
It's not going play shop.
I did, yes, right here.
Exactly.
And it's spelled correctly.
That's good with a K.
I told him to spell it wrong. I mean, yeah, correctly. Yeah.
I did think the card had a K actually. That pressed
You know, I always get picker too, so if it was like
Oh,
sounded that way, that would make sense, but
But it is pronounced Picard, right?
Picard, like half of Picard.
Yeah, but he spelled it with a K.
That's how it's spelled. I think, I mean, that's all I know,
Yeah, I mean, you would know better than.
but honestly, I think it sounds fine to be okay, you know, in there, but it's just
Well,
not,
no.
it's my
Yeah, the
marinade.
Somebody will
directors
make
have
a
already
motion
seen
to,
it.
Yeah.
The four directors have already seen it.
Additionally, ETC can be used.
Phil's out in the parking lot.
Listen, don't expect us at Parks and Rec. We don't order these, it's like chips in a bag. Not as fancy as Matthew.
As long as we want them right. You know.
Or Lois who makes like lasagna.
Oh, no, no.
Take one.
It's the bourbon mix. That's-
Bourbon,
Oh,
whatever.
yeah. Well, here, I'll give him a run. He may have worked. He may not. Did Robert say that?
That's okay.
None of the board.
None of the board members say so?
Just the directors.
Oh, Ron Walker.
I think they should raise out of the.
Still, she had bailed. I'm tired of doing more travel. So I took her role. And then in October, I think it was October.
Yeah.
That we do, okay, I guess I can wait to.
No, to be signed. Our checks for them.
Advice board picks it. and the
Who wants to bring us the office?
fix, and that's the way it's. When it's all in his document. So we don't-
Yes.
Tons of lines. You got four county commissioners. Selected the commission, so.
Mark, you gave, I think you gave it to me.
Yeah.
You're the only real.
You gave it to Shelby at our,
Yeah.
I can.
because then she gave.
That's like, well, I didn't know, 'cause I'm-
Yeah, no,
Did you have a chance to look at this at all?
a little bit.
Yeah.
Gotcha, okay.
What
I
are you
see.
thinking?
Oh, sorry, sorry. No, I'm kidding, I'm totally kidding. I did, it's sitting on my local, at my house, and I didn't send it back yet.
So I was thinking-
Okay, so I think the reason why I had a
Oh,
call is that it's
I-
been something
Right.
today. Well, I understand, yeah, but I didn't want to. No, that is so sweet.
You know,
So,
I don't
he has been
know if it would be a whole bunch of extra cost because of how many people might take advantage of it, then.
Yeah, how can they like directly get sick, right? And but
Are you doing
that's
the
like
text
gonna be
scanner or
our
you gonna
date
do the-
for that day, so I think I might have to skip this year. But thank you for.
Yeah.
The check scanner.
I never called you, I never got to see you.
Okay.
Yes.
But
Well, I remember seeing you.
I'll get around
that's probably.
Where are you?
And then you just.
For what?
Sorry.
We have to talk about it tonight.
I have-
In other words, who do we want to have? Is it going to go out to us? Can you guys pick? Who you want to have?
I think you should be able to pick too.
Yeah,
because
just send an
sending
email
out a
to
general
you.
email,
Yeah.
to chunks, you know.
As long as one board member on your staff.
Correct.
Well,
And what I was thinking is you could
Thank
use
you.
your liaison as your primary and me as a backup.
Right.
I was curious on that, if you're not
Well,
doing all the positive.
Well, there is.
Yeah.
Because it's like, why-
we
why-
definitely
for the
have
expense.
standard, and I think we'll do both. We've got good. So we may not even go to Philadelphia.
Lois has switched them over because now she only has to go to the bank once a month.
Well, we also had myself and Kathy Westcott, work mobile.
Okay, I'm gonna put that
Right.
on my.
Okay.
Yep.
Fix that. on the library.
11 to
So
3, okay.
I think we'll be setting those up as a backup in case we decide to use them.
18 months. Well, the county came out, they met with me, yeah. I suppose there's the-
Okay.
Why did you rather? I mean, that's-
Having a Zoom meeting next Tuesday night.
Call the meeting to order.
Oh, wait, Sandy, I'm sorry.
Oh.
Let me get the
Okay,
recording going.
wait, never mind, we're gonna hold.
I apologize.
Nix that.
Quick pause.
I lost track of time. Okay, remind me later.
Sweater. I'm happy.
Oh, actually, it looks like we're already recording.
See,
So I think we are good to go. Let me just pause. Make it-
to get
Okay,
to the table.
all good, Madam Chair.
Yeah, I'm on the other side, we're like two bookends.
Okay. Can we do roll call, please?
Sure can. Sandy, you're here, Phil is here, Erica, welcome, as I say. Someplace I saw him, the ones here. Dan, President John, President. Phil, President. We have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. Please stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have open mic. Yeah. We have any public comments?
No, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Okay. So for agency rules, procedures, throw that over to you, we'll do it as part of the meeting. Catalog update. Yes, sir.
Well, here's where we are. We're almost ready to finish, but not quite. Bill and I have been working on putting the policies that we found into consistent language so that it'll look like we have a plan when we started, and we're not quite there, but what we'd like to do is, first of all, say Bill and I can keep working together. Secondly, that we'll, in the next 2 meetings, we'll have a whole list of what we believe we found in the documents, and we'll ask the board to say yes. If their stamp on them, then they're in the book, and we're done with that. It'll take 2 sessions, we think, and we'll get it to you a couple weeks in advance so that at the meeting, we don't have to discuss very much except where we've missed the mark. And if we do that, then we should move through this thing pretty fast and be done with it in a couple months to be done. And a lot of what we're putting in the book, it turns out, is already existing in the employee manual of either PHCSA or the entities, because I got Lois's, and I'm gonna get with Erica and everybody else to see what they have. But I expect we'll find that we've covered just about everything off that list that we approved months ago to say, this is where we think we ought to go. So I see the end of the road coming, and I just ask for your patience for a couple more months, and next month we'll have a whole bunch of you to have looked at in advance and say, yes, that's fine, and then we'll move on to the next group, and then we'll have the book, And the book will be at the meeting from now on, and very soon after that, it'll be uploaded in a way that can be searched and by anybody. Changed only by probably Beth. And, she's not here. Beth and
Shelby?
Shelby, possibly me, and, just to help. It'll be that way, and anybody can go online and find it and look up whatever policy they want to look at and study and all of that. But we'll always have a presence here so that we do a quick reference. Eventually, we'll get Andy to look at it too, to make sure we've done it right. Remember what he always says, if 5 of you think it's right, it's right. That's gonna be the attitude we're using. That's my report.
Any questions? Anybody?
Questions? Anybody have any
Comments? Anybody?
problemos?
Okay. Treasurer's report.
Everybody, no anomalies have been, everyone's spending wisely, no anomalies have been found.
For your things.
We are moving forward with ACH. Erica, correct me if I'm wrong, some, files have been sent over to, from, what was it, none of your head? You know that
Yeah,
too.
whatever they
DocuSign.
requested, yeah.
Well, no, not the DocuSigns, the, notcher files were sent.
I have not been successful sending a notch file, and I even asked the accountant, she had no idea. So,
Okay, I'll give her a call in tomorrow, but either way, we're moving towards the ACH. The issue is gonna be is authority for signature. As all 8 directors are allowed to be, or are signatories on all of the accounts. That means all 8 of us are gonna get emails asking us to sign checks, but they really only need to have 2 signatures. So how do we want to do this? Do we want to have just the liaisons as signatories for ACH with me as the final for the board? Or as a backup to them, excuse me, with the directors and whoever they're appointing as also being signatories as well? Or do we do the shotgun out to all 8 of us on the board? For that secondary signature.
If you shoot it out to everyone, then everyone can see it then, right?
They'll see that it's out there, yeah,
Right.
but if it's already been signed, then there's nothing for you to do. I'm just worried about, somebody taking up the time to go through and sign in and do all that other fun stuff.
The problem is if you just have the liaison sign, have the right to sign, if they're out of town or anything like that, then it
It'd be
holds
all
up the
4 of them.
process.
That'll be all
Oh,
four,
well,
all 4
oh,
of the
okay.
liaisons,
All right.
not just
Okay.
picking one,
I
but all
thought you
4 of
meant
the
just
liaisons would be there.
liaison. Okay.
the liaison, like,
Yeah.
from each entity, not the appointed county, this, Bill would be for library, Phil would be, yeah.
So John, once
I don't
one
want
of
to
the
sign it.
people sign it, do the other people then know there a way that they know that it's already been signed? When they don't.
As a secondary signer, yes, we would know that it's already been signed if we logged in. You guys being the primaries or, their designees, you
initiator.
yourself, you already know it's signed.
Mhm.
But it's the secondary signatures, we would know when we logged in that it was
Okay.
signed.
So was that something that you would go over every month?
Yeah, because I would get an email, once they process that file, I would get an email, as would the 4 entity liaisons. And it's a shotgun just out to 5 versus 8.
Well, the other thing too is the warrants list that the advisory board see, that will remain the same. So
Right.
they're gonna see all of the expenditures the week before we get
Right.
here.
Okay, we don't see all the checks every month
No.
anyway.
Right.
It's not like we see them now, only if you're new signer.
Right. I just saw Lois. I've never signed her checks before.
Because there was a lot of
There
Baker
was
and
a-
Taylor, and I didn't want to give them to Dan. Won't be a
So
problem anymore.
it's something that we need, I'm gonna look into a little bit further with the bank. They weren't real clear. We still have some issues with sending what's called a notcher file, which is the base file that goes to the bank to tell them what checks need to be ACH'd when and everything else.
Mhm.
So once we get that figured out, then we'll have
Did you
more of
do
a
yours?
better,
See that.
Yeah, it was in an email. I have no
No.
idea. And the accountant's like, I've never heard of it. It's a QuickBooks.
It's a QuickBooks file that's exported out. Once we get that figured out, we'll be able to go to this, but they're moving it that way to avoid all the paper checks and everything else. It'll be much of the cost savings as possible to the entities, so. Based on that, we're just in process. Well, that's really it for my report.
Comments?
Yeah.
Board? How do you all feel about that?
What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah.
Probably a couple years too late.
I'm sorry?
It's a couple years slow.
Well, yeah, I mean, but hey, we're making strides. I mean, look where we were 3 years ago and look where we're at now as a board. I mean, everything takes time,
So
so.
on the table right now is everybody gonna get a master blast every time somebody needs to have some check signed?
Right,
As opposed to the current scenario, which is a text or phone call that I'll get from Mark or somebody from East Lake Library, and that's just me. And I'm alerted to it. I say yes or no, can they come over and get it signed? And that's pretty much it. So it's definitely a jump between the two.
well, because remember, this is all electronic now.
Understood.
So you're not gonna have paper checks. You can just.
That's
sit there on your
great.
Phone.
But then again, who wants more emails?
Well, exactly. That's kind of what I'm looking at. I don't want to bombard
You're the
everybody
treasurer,
with
figure it
emails.
out.
Well, and I would like to find out from the bank if
Only
there's any
so much I can
way
do.
No, I hear you.
we can just send an email. Hey, Ron, can you sign? Because if that was the case, I would say all of you would be as a secondary and we can, just like we do now. Hey, John, can you come sign my checks tonight? If there's a way to do that, or is it just mass blast? I would,
Well, because somebody's on the road, it's typical, that's always signing, you're used to contacting them first,
Right.
and all of a sudden they're out, so is there a pecking order that we
Right.
might establish or something?
Well, wouldn't you be the secondary? So they'd have first and second, is that what you said?
That's what I was thinking, is that they could be, that the entity liaisons could be the first.
If they're not available.
But as Erica said, and I kind of did broach it with Cadence, can they identify a cosigner?
like, once I've queued all the checks and initiated the ACHs, can I just send you an email? Hey, Sandy, checks are ready to be, checked by you. Can you please log on? That to me would seem to be an appropriate avenue. And then everybody would be signers, just like you are now. And who cares who we initiate, as long as we don't have to initiate all 8 of you.
Right.
And then you think she's gonna do it and she thinks you're gonna do it, and then nobody does it.
Right.
Yeah.
Cause ideally, we would like them signed, I would say, same day or next day like we do now.
Right.
And you would have to log into Cadence Bank through the mobile app or online to be able to be the countersign. So you would have your own account into the Cadence app. You wouldn't be able to process anything or anything else. It's solely there for signature.
And we didn't really clarify this with them, but I think it probably goes without saying that whatever we set up now, if we realize after a month or a couple months that it's not working or we're not getting quick enough turnaround, we can make bring it back to the body and make an adjustment.
Yeah, I don't think anything's permanent.
Yeah.
Yeah, nothing's permanent.
And the only comment I would have, I would expect that you're going to be writing a standard procedure for this one, then give it to Ron, that we can actually document this.
Sure. Once we get it figured out.
Okay, because to your point, we need that procedure, that even if we make changes to it, I get that, but we're gonna have to document that. That's all. Thank you.
Even if, so we're gonna further investigate.
We're gonna
how we
further
can do it,
investigate.
bring
We're gonna
back
leave it
next-
out. I just wanted to throw that out there, but yeah, we're gonna look into it a little bit more. I was not aware that the voucher file had.
Okay,
That's my report.
so that's going to be coming back up to us. Keep it on your plate. It's coming back.
Next month.
Next month is coming back. Okay, Palm Harbor Parks and Rec, monthly financials for January. Do we have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And motion carries. We have a motion to accept the director's.
Move to
report.
approve.
Second.
Any questions or comments, but let's talk first.
Well, questions first, obviously. Anybody? I know Ron already asked me why the roof's still leaking at the chapel, and I wish I had that response, except waiting on the county.
Why is the roof not finished? It's all my
But it's
roof
under
not
warranty,
finished
right?
at the rec center.
Um,
None of
listen,
that.
are you trying to hurt me? I live it. I had to put trash cans under the roof today inside the hallway to catch the rain. So trust me, we live it every day. I was told that it isn't purchasing and they're waiting on the contractor, the roofing contractor, to show up and do Putnam and the center. So, that is a step in the right direction. The other thing we did hear today in a meeting, we were in an IT meeting with the county for the new building, that I am passing around a couple of pictures that we got from the architect this week, which is super exciting to see something like to touch and feel. That demo looks like it'll be around the August, September timeframe. So they're at least talking about demo, which is more than we've had. So, over the last 18 years, hard to say that number. I'm trying to think of, so I don't know if you guys saw the BOCC meeting, heard about the BOCC meeting. I know Ron did. We talked about it at advisory. At that BOCC meeting where they were it was actually before the Board of Adjustment meeting, we had to have a zoning change for the center because we're adding so many square feet. Don't ask me what the zoning change is. It went from type 2 or from RA to type 2, but it was necessary to go on to the next phase of submitting building permits. When the sign went up on 16th Street that there was going to be a Board of Adjustment land use meeting, there was some turmoil down the street at the YMCA. This one called that one called this one, and it ended up in front of the Board of County Commission. And some of the things that were said, and what upsets me most is I really and truthfully take pride in my job, and I take pride representing FIX in this community. There were some things said at that public meeting that's recorded. Y'all can go back and watch it that were, I don't know, Phil, would you call them blatant lies, perhaps?
Oh, yeah.
So I wanted to be clear to this board, 2 years ago or 2.5 years ago, when the memo of understanding went before YMCA board and this board, both Phil and I did our jobs and we signed it. He was then chair. And then we gave it back to the Y and Nancy, and somehow, some way, it never got signed by the Y. And so the Y was freaking out. They thought the building wasn't happening. They heard a rumor from a staff member allegedly, because I met with the COO and the CEO with Nancy and Tom Elmani, and we talked it through. They heard the project had failed. So when they saw the notice of land use change, they freaked out. I understand that. Thankfully, we had a champion at that BOCC meeting in Dave Eggers, and he talked it through, kind of disputed some of the information that was maybe misrepresented. And we have since then, in the last 2 weeks, the county drafted another MOU. It went to legal. It was blessed by legal here. It was blessed by legal by the Y, and both the YMCA and our current chair and myself have signed that. So it's a signed, sealed, and delivered document. Basically, their main concern is that we don't ever put an exercise gym in that building that we're building. And we will not do that because we need it for pickleball, cardio drumming, track, basketball, volleyball. But I think I'm going to defer to Phil because he also has some things he would like you guys to know. But I will tell you with everything that I am, I have never said anything that would represent this agency in a bad way and never acted in such a way. You Google my name, I don't think you find me on a bar stool falling off. So to hear something said at that public meeting, it was disturbing by our commission. So Phil, I give that to you.
So, I mean, I didn't attend that meeting, and I didn't attend the follow-up. The follow-up meeting, everything went smooth. Everything got approved, no issues anymore. However, at the first meeting, there were comments made that the Palm Harbor Community Services Agency had not done our due diligence. We as a board had not followed through, that we had not communicated with the YMCA. I mean, blatant misinformation was provided. I sat in a meeting with Erica, with the Suncoast Y CEO,
the COO,
the then head of the Palm Harbor YMCA. In fact, even the conversations went into a personal side that I have a cousin that's the head of the Asheville YMCA, and he knows him, and we talked about that. And the big concern at that meeting was we don't want to duplicate programs. We want to support each other. The thing that's not being said, and the Y was quick not to say anything about, is at that time, they had been approved to put about a 5,000 square foot addition on. There was a field house addition that was supposed to be restrooms and locker rooms and in another room. And until about 3 months ago, I thought that's what they had done. And I'm talking to somebody about basketball, and they say, "Oh, well, we're running a basketball program over at the Y." And I said, "Well, how can you? You don't have a gym. We're going to be building a gym." "Oh no, we have a full-size basketball court indoors." I said, "What?" And then this came up. And so what happened is they're now upset that we're building a gym, which is going to compete with their basketball program, when they never approached us at all about their changing their plan. We had even gone into appoint Fleischman and Garcia, or Fleischman was, or Garcia, I forget which is their architect. And I knew him, so I called him up. We had a conversation about doing a joint public
Unveiling.
of the two programs that we were gonna do, but we got delayed in our approvals, so we weren't able to do that to meet their schedule. And they were all supportive of us, but at this meeting, all's changed since then, but the first meeting that happened, all the commissioners heard the negatives about FICSA. They never heard any positives. It just fell away. So as a board, with those comments still ringing in their ears from the meeting prior to the rezoning, they still have that in their mindset. They still have Commissioner, who said it? It was, Lava, right?
Well, I think
Who did the original? Who said that we had misled the Y? Who led that march?
That would have been, I believe it was Commissioner Nowicki.
Okay,
Nowicki, yeah.
so they
Who
got
heard it
that
from-
information.
Who heard it from Chris, or from, Bala, who then heard it from
Chris Sprouse.
Chris Sprouls.
Right.
It came down from Tallahassee. The
So,
way I took it from watching that meeting.
okay,
Is
so
Chris's wife still
Yes,
running?
Yeah.
yes.
I don't know about Tallahassee.
well, Chris Sprouse had
It
been,
was village.
That, but
he had been
That's not
an
village.
advocate
Continue.
for us
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
trying to get us funding through
Understood.
the state for, doing improvements at Sunderman, which I'm assuming fell through and nothing.
The government, yeah. I
What would
guess
have
it's when
happened
the
if you
governor asked
didn't-
it.
change the agreement or this agreement?
Hmm?
What would
When it-
happen if you
it
just said,
purely
we're
was
doing
the-
our own thing? Are you just trying to play nice in the sand or make?
We were trying to play nice in the sand.
Okay.
And we wanted our zoning, we had to get our zoning approved or we couldn't move forward.
Okay.
So, if zoning had got squashed, then we would have been, the county would have spent $1 million on design without being able to.
Yeah,
move
we're
forward.
90%, 95% after today, done with design.
But I don't know. I was offended. I was shocked. I felt like it was a slap in our face and I don't like that. I don't like FICSA being misrepresented to the board. We've done so much to keep our image good with them. We've had to do a little repair work in the past and take care of some little issues. we've
Kathleen
had.
Peters, though, spoke very highly of FICSA and
And
said,
Dave Eggers
Yeah.
is our advocate and speaks very highly of us all the time, but I don't know there's anything we can do. I just hate that it went that way and I hate that, that we got spoke bad of when we didn't deserve it.
because at one point, Chris Latvala recommended that if the memo of understanding couldn't have been signed in 60 days, he wanted the project stopped completely. That was what he wanted. That was his motion on the
This
floor.
is Chris, I think?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Latvala. It's public, so I'm not saying anything. It's public record.
I'm gonna watch it.
And then at some point, he pretty much said FICSA needs to stay in their own lane, and that's a quote. So I don't understand where that comes from, because when we met with the Y, and I sat before Phil with Rex 10 years ago, we met with then whoever was the CAO and the CEO and the director, and we talked about doing collaborative basketball leagues together, and have a champion at 16th Street, and we were all
At-
excited about.
At our facility.
Right, right, no, that's the truth. And because we do that now with flag football, we all play at the same.
Why wouldn't you? I
Right, we
mean,
play at the same field, but they take registrations for their members, we take registration for our people, and that's how we've always coexisted with them. So it was a little bit surprising that we had gone back a decade and plus years in time to revisit, but I'm happy to report it did pass unanimously with the Board of Adjustments. The zoning change occurred, the memo of understanding is signed, so.
But one thing too to remember is that there's been changeover in commissioners. And this has been going on 10+ years, right, Erica?
Yeah,
If not
probably
longer, guys.
longer.
So you've got commissioners that are new on the board who have no idea about what's going on. I mean, they really don't. And they,
It's really
even
weird,
in the
though.
meeting, they said, oh, I didn't know anything about that.
It's really
and-
weird,
and-
John, nobody called to ask about it.
I understand, trust me,
I'm just saying.
I
was watching
That's
it
my
the same
phone
as you
In
number.
guys.
Phyllis County's history, we have had commissioners that have had no idea what it's like up here.
Oh,
yeah.
Plain and simple. But that's,
Right.
but that said,
But-
I could see a fairly newer commissioner or something, somebody gets in there, tells them something, if I was that commissioner, I'd be a little upset.
Yeah.
If that's all I knew.
Right.
And
But
that's,
did we take a permanent bruise because of that?
Maybe.
And is there, do you have a solution or you think?
I don't know, that's why I
Mr. Tyson
wanted to
clarity?
brainstorm, I mean, in the past, we've done things like
A corrective
ask for
measure.
retractions from the St. Pete Times or ask for this or ask for that. So maybe a nice letter from PHCSA, from our chairman, you know, just saying, you know, hey, we just want, you know, we know there's some new commissioners, we know there's a new, you know, some new deputies that are, you know, in the county now. And we just want to introduce ourselves again, although our directors every year do
We're in the
a,
midst of that right now.
you know, go visit every single one of the commissioners.
So I did send letters to the new commissioners when we were doing the reappointment.
No,
Yeah, I would do an
I invited
intro
them to
letter and correction.
right, yes.
Hey,
I
we're new
remember
and
that.
we're mad.
But maybe we just want to send a letter, maybe you could get with Erica and say, you know, just wanted to make sure everybody was aware of our $10 million program that's coming up and how excited we are about it and how much it's going to benefit the community. And, you know, and put that in front of them. I don't know. That's my idea.
But this is a thought. We keep bringing it up to keep stirring the pot, or since everything passed so easily, you know, within.
Well,
3
that was
minutes, it
just the
passed.
zoning.
The zoning.
It's just the zoning. I mean,
Actual spending of the funds, correct me if
Still-
I'm wrong,
No, it has
still
to-
has to be approved,
And that goes
right?
before the county commission.
Okay, so
commissioners.
that's still coming.
But I think the memo was the big piece
It
that
was.
they were looking
It
for.
was.
And I think
Yeah.
you felt like it was in favor of you guys and in favor of them to where it was a mutual
Yeah.
agreement of some sort, right?
Absolutely.
but the deal
So, I
was,
mean-
we had signed it.
Oh, you no doubt, like,
It had been
yes,
submitted
I had
years
this-
ago.
I called her right away and I actually had a conversation with her and she said she had signed it a while ago.
You actually called me and I answered you.
Yeah.
And you got
You always
information.
do, you always do.
My point is, nobody
Um,
took the time. Chris Charles has my cell number. He could have called me way before he called Chris Latvala or No Wiki or whoever talked.
Yeah.
It was Letbella. I misspoke. It was Letbella. It was not Noe.
Do I think it's a bad thing to send a letter or something from the PHCSA board to the county commissioners in regards to our building? No, I don't think it's a bad idea. I think if it's a positive letter, not, hey, you guys threw us under the bus, we're pissed. No, just you know, we are so excited to, you know, maybe include the renderings with it and say, you know, this is, we are so excited about the upcoming project and really appreciate your all support. Thank you so much for all that you've done for us.
Well, even sorry that there was miscommunication too, because there was miscommunication on somebody's end, right?
The problem was
A lot of
it
No,
wasn't our
I'm not saying it
miscommunication.
is. I'm not
So-
saying it was. I'm saying there was a lot of communication happening that involved a lot of different people.
No, but to Sandy's point, we all know June's approaching and we all know that that's a hot button. I'm not saying that we shouldn't send it, Phil. I think an email thanking them is appropriate. Hey, we're so happy that Board of Adjustments approved the zoning change unanimously. We hope to have your support when the project comes before you for a vote or whatever. I just worry about my colleagues, so I don't want to be
No.
stirring up any kind of beehive right before June.
And the other part might be, you know, I might wanna hold it, wait until it's getting close to the time where they're gonna vote, so we can push
There it
them
is.
right then. That
Or
Save it. Don't do
Save
it.
and be-
Roll over this. You got what you want.
Yes.
Everybody's pretty happy. I feel the bruise. But
Yep.
use it when applicable and when you get the most bang for your buck, when you get close. Like we were talking today about funding and how to go after it at the right time. And this is kind of a bump to me. I didn't watch the video, but if I'm missing something or we should go, you know, storm the castle, then that's a different story. But
Well,
I think this
they
is probably
were,
not it.
believe me, that if we were ready to go storm the castle.
It's not, well,
Erica,
I understand the
but
integrity level.
when things settled down before the meeting, we felt that everything was gonna be fine, although they all went.
We
Erica
had
had
8
full
people,
support
3
there.
board members came with me, both architects were there, a couple staff people. There were 8 or 9 people in support of us, which I think spoke
Because you
volumes.
had them coming down, you had a trifecta coming in.
We weren't sure
It was a
if
mission.
anyone was gonna speak in opposition.
One thing to point out, there was a motion to put on hold the rezoning for 60 days, to wait for that memo of understanding. That was voted down, by the way. The motion to hold was
What
voted
was the
down.
count? What was
4
the,
to 3.
4-3.
Okay.
Barely voted down.
Right, but it was still voted down. So while, yes, I agree, playing the letter card is, kind of the last straw. But there's 4 of us at this table that were appointed by 4 different county commissioners. And maybe we can bring some light to them on our own if necessary.
Yep, and I think that happens.
I think
too.
that would be a good thing to do, because I know I reached out to Commissioner Scheer the day after, actually that afternoon. I reached out to his assistant saying, Commissioner Scheer has any questions about the programs and whatnot of PHCSA and the new building at the Palm Harbor Parks and Rec, please have him reach out to me. I'm more than willing to meet with him and go over it. So it's again, he's brand new.
That's probably better.
Wicked's brand new as well.
I gave information as I passed it right
Exactly.
along. Yeah.
Drop
So-
in the discussion, move on, don't make it a
Yeah.
big deal.
Right, exactly. Just hold off if we need to.
Well, and again, I think both sides are happy with that memorandum signed.
Yeah.
I mean,
It doesn't change anything for us. It doesn't
Right.
eliminate our ability to do basketball.
right, exactly.
You were
Remain on
taught a
top.
lesson for future navigation.
Did the Y sign off?
They did.
Okay, that was gonna be my suggestion. If you get it in place, then that ought to chill everybody. And there are 3 new commissioners since this whole thing started, which would include Matt Valentier and Ricky. So you've got 3 new people who are here since.
Yep.
All of this came up. So it's just more information is probably the best thing. I think.
Dan has a question.
I don't understand it. Because I wasn't there, I don't really understand it. The difficulty was the county commissioner was saying that this shouldn't go through rezoning. But are they saying that because they don't want it, or because they got feedback from the YMCA that we did something wrong? So do we go after the commissioners for just relaying information that they have with the Y, or do we go to the Y and say, what's the problem?
Commissioners.
Because they must have gotten it from somewhere.
Yeah,
and it
they
must have come
did.
from
They
the
got
law.
information and they were just looking into it and then they put some weight on it apparently, and they wanted to make sure that memo got signed.
So
That
it was
was the main
signed,
thing.
so the Y is happy?
So that way
Yeah,
both.
do we
sides
know?
are happy.
I met with the Y.
That
So
would
then, if they're happy, unless you have someone on your staff saying we don't want it.
They signed, so they must be happy.
Yeah,
I signed it.
There's a signed memo.
The commissioner just relaying information from the Y who was upset with their decisions.
Right.
Too bad, right? So I think it's over. I don't
Yeah.
really, if the YMCA, our problem should be with the YMCA, not with the county commission. They're just acting on feedback that they got from the YMCA.
Yeah, it's just open communication with them. I mean. But it turned into something because of miscommunication.
Right.
So we're good.
Yep.
Okay.
The only other thing I wanted to say
Yeah.
is our opening day yesterday for
I'm
all.
gonna watch this.
Fine, we're good until we're not. You know,
Right, that's why I said, this is a navigation lesson for future,
we just have
moving
a,
down this
but
river.
it just seems like there's always a commissioner or 2 commissioners that always pick on the Palm Harbor Community Services Agency. Always seems to find fault in something we have done or have not done. And
And we can be proud as a board that we've done a lot and we're doing a good job.
I think we've done everything good. I think we've done everything correct.
So if there's stuff out there, we can only go so far. I mean, that's the commission.
But the good news is,
Yeah.
our first day of 100% camp registrations was yesterday, open to the public, not priority registration. And we beat last year's opening day by $9,000. So between yesterday and so far today, almost $70,000 in camp registration. So pretty impressive. Thank God for the software, so we don't have to answer all those phone calls. Right, guys? So I think that was all. I don't know what was in my report or not,
You have a bill that you need to get approved by us.
but that's not
Yeah.
my director's
That's
report.
coming.
Oh, I'm sorry. My bad.
Okay.
My bad. I'm sorry.
Anyone have any more on the director's report?
No.
We had a first and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
I,
Okay, now we get to, with no old business, but we do have new business fencing on the west side of Putnam Park.
move to approve.
Second,
Any questions?
I seen it. Oh.
It needs to be done.
Any questions, comments? Did we get a dollar amount on that?
It should be on the, on
You're on the motion.
Does your motion have a dollar amount on it?
It was supposed to be not to exceed 30,000, I thought.
that's what the advisory board said.
Yeah, but did we make the motion?
I moved to approve the fencing expenditure not to exceed $30,000, which is what the advisory board approved.
Who was our second?
Second is amended.
Okay, any other questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried.
Thank you.
Okay, we're gonna move on. East Lake Parks and Rec. We get a motion to accept the financials for January.
Accept it.
Okay, all in second.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, any questions on East Lake's financials? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We need a motion to accept the East Lake Parks and Rec Directors.
I'll do that one too. And I'll second that one as well.
Okay, Mark.
Yeah, I just wish I had a building to put a basketball court in. So I could-
Oh, right.
Oh.
But in your plumbing.
But yours is lit by the star.
Wait, you don't?
Yeah, and probably the YMCA on East Lake could probably have a problem with that. Anyway, finally, we're kind of caught up with, our fix-it projects from, the storms. We did remove the broken shade structure that was damaged and, straighten some of the poles and fix some of the netting. So that was all done. We upgraded our video surveillance system. It's finally up and running and it works fabulous. And we also upgraded our gate entry system. That's done now too. So, when it was raining and stuff, I could shut the gates from my phone. So that was really nice. And, those are the big things there. The survey team is still working out at the Meadows. So we're moving on with that project. We did, like was mentioned earlier, we started our meetings with the county commissioners, and last month we met with Eggers and Nowicki. And then this month we just met with Scott.
Sure.
Here's next week.
No, sure.
No, next month. March 10th.
We did, they finished the roof on the baseball concession stand. It's done, and that was totally funded by the baseball team. I think that's about it.
Did you change vendors from the original, the security system that was installed, the videos?
No, same
Same
vendor,
guy. Just new
just
equipment?
upgraded to a cloud system and put some better cameras in.
Did you swap out the ones that were out there?
Yeah,
You
some of
did?
them,
Okay, okay.
just a few of them. Some of them are the same.
Got it.
Any other questions? East Lake? All in favor, accepting the director's report, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Any new business or old business, Mark?
Nope, not at this time.
Okay, thank you. Okay, move on, Palm Harbor Library. We have a motion to accept the financials for January.
Motion.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Do we have a motion to accept the director's report?
The director's report.
Second.
Okay.
All right.
You're on.
Well, I'll turn first to Kathy Wass, Assistant Director for the Library, to do a quick recap of our Artful Evening annual fundraiser.
Yes, our fundraiser was a success. We had over 200 people come through the door, and we made over $5,600. So that was excellent. Unfortunately, I do have sad news to report. Our featured artist, who was Kevin Grass, passed away right after the event. He was actually a bicyclist who was killed right by a home city.
Oh.
So he was 56 years old. It was awful. He was a beloved professor at SPC, and his celebration of life was on Saturday at Luca Ratner, because he also had worked there, and they had over 300 people.
Wow.
So, and share, so his theme for this year, well, a lot of his work featured these rubber ducks, which sounds kind of cheesy, but actually the art is really good. and share where he got that inspiration.
Yeah, I was talking to his wife the night of the event and she told me that he actually got the idea from our library because we've done the fundraiser, A Buck for a Duck for many years. And he was here and, got some of the ducks and that actually inspired him to start doing the art of the duck.
If you go into any of the offices around the library, you will see many, many ducks. And now, I want to share that Palm Harbor Library is offering mobile printing. And there should be a splash on that on our homepage. And we're also offering more pay options for print jobs. You can pay with a credit card, Apple Pay or Samsung Pay now, whereas before it's just cash and coins. Still can do cash and coins, but can do those extra methods as well. We do have a slight movement on those front sliding glass doors, which have been difficult. But it has been an approved project from the county because it's on the envelope of the building. And we did actually have Rose Ott come up to inspect the doors and at the end of January. So that project is moving. I don't know how fast, but it's moving. So let's see here.
You'll probably get your door fixed before I get mine done.
You want to place a bet on that or?
No, I already lost to you once. I'm not a betting idiot.
This Saturday, Catalog Your Treasures, sort of like Antique Roadshow, happening here at the library. If you have anything in your attic that you're dying to know the value, you can get that done. That's Friends of the Library event. And then our big event in March is save the date is Ace Con, the next big event, I should say, on March 8th and 9th. And that is family friendly, unlike some other Comic Cons where you might feel a little bit tentative about bringing kids. This is a family friendly event here. And let's see. I'll mention that the Veteran Voices Project, David Vargas, who's affiliated with the County Veterans Association and also with the Chamber, of course. He and I think a number of others hosted this oral history project. It became a book where you can both read the oral histories as well as like scan a code to listen to them from veterans in the area. And the book is now at the East Lake Library as well as the Palm Harbor Library. If you'd like to check it out, it is on our shelves. And they had a great event celebrating that on the 20th. And we'll mention very briefly our Staff Development Day we co-hosted with Parks and Rec this year. And it was excellent. We had almost 50 people in attendance and from us and our staff. And we'll have some more details next month, but it was
Great.
fantastic.
I've had
Yeah.
nothing but positive feedback.
Let's see. And then just so everybody knows, we are opening 1 hour late on the 27th because here at the library, we'll have our annual employee benefit enrollment session for staff so they can understand what benefits are available to them and ask any questions they might. I think that's it for highlights.
Any questions?
Is that Thursday meeting for all the employees, for all the entities, or just the?
No, it's everybody, all full-time
All
benefits,
full-time.
medical benefits.
Yeah.
Mhm.
All full-time for the health, and then any employee participating in the retirement will be both part-time and full-time will be incumbent.
Other comments? Questions? All in favor of accepting the director's report, say aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Oh. So one correction under new business.
Yeah, that was the.
Kathy, we do not have a new
Kathy,
assistant
didn't
director.
realize you were leaving.
It says on the
About
agenda,
that.
new assistant director at Palm Harbor Library, I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm like,
Why
wow.
can't-
This is, no, this is
Lois
this
is
is
dealing
Kathy's
with it, they're
guidance,
dealing with
sister,
it. Everybody's got
Kathy's
problems.
They're all gone. Library, okay. Move on to East Lake.
Yeah, I will admit, this isn't officially new business, but I want to put it on the radar screen of the board because we'll probably share more about it at the next meeting, which is there's been an idea been discussed for a long time off and on over the years, and mostly before I came on board, about the idea of centralizing some or all of IT for PHCSA. That is something we're looking at more closely now, myself and the other directors, to see whether or not it's something that could be done to kind of leverage our ability to make more smarter and more powerful technology decisions, potentially save costs or at least do cooperative purchasing, look at some other, things that would benefit us from a technology standpoint as well. So as we get more information, we'll share that with the board so that you're in the loop.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Okay, we're gonna move on to East Lake Library. Do we have a motion to accept the monthly financials for January?
Motion to accept.
Okay.
Ooh, got it,
Questions?
Ron.
I had to get one.
Oh,
Okay, no questions or comments? All in favor of accepting the financial report for January, say aye.
I,
Opposed, motion carries. Do we have a motion to accept the director's report?
so moved.
Second.
Okay. Us?
We have had a very busy month, but I think the highlight of the month, which even is also under new business, is I would like to introduce to the board our new Assistant Director, Anne Marie Nuremberg. She comes to us from Dunedin Library. I'm not allowed to pass through the doors of Dunedin Library anymore. Okay, I have an outstanding adult services librarian and now an outstanding assistant director. Would
That you
like-
stole from Dunedin?
Both are from Dunedin. Okay? And Denise Myerscough years ago worked for Dunedin, but she was at Palm Harbor in between, so. Would you like to say a few words, Anne Marie?
No.
I guess so. Thank you all for having me tonight. It's very nice to meet you all. I've met some of you. I'm very excited to be at East Lake. I'm looking forward to a great future there. Lots going on there, so I'm very excited to be.
We're very fortunate because she is the complete package. Okay, she was already a passport agent at Dunedin Library and is now certified for passports at East Lake Library.
And she knew me.
And she knew you, so that was a plus. I didn't hold it against her.
The time is now 6:45. The library will close in 15 minutes. Thank you.
She also has agreed to take on the onus responsibility of being volunteer coordinator as well as her other job. So I really appreciated that because we were not doing well finding a replacement for the volunteer coordinator that left in December. So, okay, thank you. Of course, the biggest news is the unveiling of the renderings and our two events that are coming up. We have Booked for Brunch, which is the private event that I hope you've all received invitations to. We have approximately 50 attendees at this point. I gave them a number today, but if anybody still has not responded and would like to come, just let me know and I can change the number. We have former State Senator Jack Latvala speaking because he was instrumental in getting this building, okay, at East Lake. So we appreciate all that he's done in the past. We have John Toppy, who is our architect consultant, who has helped create some renderings, both interior and exterior. James Cuomo, the head of our foundation. You will not have glazed over eyes, I promise you. Okay, we're just going to have some brief remarks and then an unveiling of the rendering and of course the launching of our capital campaign. For those of you that could not attend Book for Brunch, I have good news. We are having our Spreading Our Wings family celebration on Saturday, April 12th, to unveil the renderings and the capital campaign to the patrons, to the community. It's a wonderful day to bring the kids. We're releasing butterflies. We have a muralist, the same muralist that did the mural at Palm Harbor Parks and Rec, where the children themselves can actually paint the butterflies on the mural in the children's garden.
So cool.
It's really gonna be great. We have butterfly face painting, so it's gonna be, catch the theme. Okay, so we're gonna have a really fun day. On another note, we have been visiting with the county commissioners, touting our accomplishments and all that we do and the need for their support. We also have worked with the schools now and are in full swing with the school volunteers coming in for the fingerprinting services. So that is starting to really get off the ground. And of course, passports continue to be a wonderful service for the community. This Saturday, we are going to be bombarded. Don't come anywhere near East Lake Library this Saturday because we're doing our second annual passport fair. And by all indications, by phone calls and such, we are going to be slammed. So it is walk-ins only. And last year, the first year we did it, we had 30 passports that we did. I expect to exceed that number this year. So it's all hands on deck from 10 to
I'll bring the
3.
popcorn. Who wants to go watch?
I also want to say, and it's not in the report, that I want to give special thanks to Erica with the newsletter publisher that she put us in contact with. We have just signed an agreement with them to do the newsletter with this company that will cost us nothing. And I saw the summer camp brochure from your entity, and it's wonderful. And this is what collaboration and working together is all about.
So Dan, remember when you asked years ago, I think it was you, maybe it was at my advisory board, what we get out of conference when we go, and it costs us a couple grand to go every year? That's one of the things. And for our entity, it's saving us about $6,000 a year.
Well,
So it's gonna pay for 3 years worth of our
ours
conference.
is 3,600, but it will increase fivefold because we're going to get that many more to
So-
distribute, as well as encompass the Friends newsletter if they're interested, which will save them money as well. So
Which in
again,
turn gives you more money.
right,
Yeah,
so,
it's a great find.
Don't forget about me.
okay. Oh, he's getting his own page in the newsletter. I said, okay, Parks and Rec.
Good.
Right?
I think that's a great
That's
idea.
it. It is.
Of course
It
it
is.
is.
As the library has a page in ours.
Absolutely, that's a good idea.
It's awesome.
And we also will have pages for the nonprofits in our area that we also do community events to help work with them and.
Like the
and share
YMCA?
Resources.
Definitely. That's on the front page of mine.
They're for profit. No, it's in schools and some of the other organizations, toy makers,
he's
Rotary
killing me
Club,
today.
and so on. I'm done. If there are any
Okay.
questions?
Any questions? on our report? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
I,
You kind of covered your new business.
I covered my
already,
new
so we're
business,
good.
yeah.
I do have a question. Those pictures that were going around, are those like two different options of what it would?
That's the center.
Oh, okay.
I forgot to say that during my director's.
Yeah.
report. I wanted y'all to see those. Those
Is
are,
it like two options? Like
no,
option A,
it's
option
just
B?
two different pictures and I was saving on lamination.
Well, because they look completely different on the outside. That's why I was wondering what, was there like?
One has hydrangea in the front of it. It's a little closer.
oh, yeah.
Well,
I'm trying to
even
figure out
like
what
the
difference
things
was.
that, hold it up, I just thought maybe, are you guys picking?
That's more of a drawing and then the other one's a rendering.
I love the fact that our renderings, which are really just a vision of what we want, because, this is not the county architects doing this, they are so similar because we both have the same issue of space.
Yeah.
So we're both going up.
Yeah.
with
That
second
stairway,
floors.
that's Meese Hospital. That's the doctor's area. in the
still?
back. Looks like it's the same place.
Well, I did mention that,
She did mention
that this
something.
looks like workout equipment behind that.
It's a basketball hoop.
All right.
And that's what I told her. I said, that's the basketball hoop and the elevated
I
walking
just,
track.
man, I swear, I can't cut a
A
break.
gymnasium, maybe?
Maybe.
Looks like one of
The
those.
funniest story from this whole experience is the first architect was Clark who helped design,
Clark,
yeah, the original center.
Who is the architect now?
It's Wanneker Jensen.
They have very good reputation. Yeah.
They actually did Wesley Chapel, which is just about like that, and
Yes.
we went out and saw it, but when he did a pro bono
That's,
little sketch for me, and he put a couple exercise bikes on it, and when the Y saw that, this is going back to probably 2005, or no, probably 2010, and they were like, I'm like, it was just him just drawing a
Just a
gym, it's
rendering.
not, yeah, so.
Yeah.
Keep kidding around, Ron, they're gonna see this
Jason
video.
Jensen is, Al Rochelle's son-in-law.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, yeah.
That's funny. They're a great group, they've been great to work with.
I've heard they're excellent and I'm hoping
Did
that.
Tommy
when it's
do our
out,
first
we work
5,000?
with the same firms.
Lois,
I'm sorry?
did Tommy do our first 5,000? Was that the original architect? I can't remember.
No, Williamson Dakar.
That's
Didn't Tommy do something to these like libraries?
He worked with the East Lake Library on the phase one expansion.
That's-
Yes, as our representative, as our consultant. He was paid for, by the library and worked with Williamson Dakar.
Tommy built a bunch of schools.
Yes, yeah. And
Florida's good
libraries
work, too.
too, so.
Okay, so you have another report? Are we good?
That's all I
I
got.
think you got, I replenished you up front.
Right.
Okay. This
Have
was,
nothing to say.
we have nothing more to say. I just think we already called on you. Okay, so now we get into agency items. We do have new business that came out of our, HR workshop on January 22nd. Did everybody get the items? We got, well, I summarized it with some, input from Ron and from Beth, and then I think the directors also, I think we came very close. I printed both of them, sent them out to you. So we want to start going through that. One of the things we talked about at the workshop was having PHCSA hire an outside firm to perform salary range and job description reviews every 3 years. That was brought up at the workshop. I know not everybody made it to the workshop, so just kind of, I get your feedback on that. Everybody wants to make a motion that we establish it in some way or change it. So what you do, start with that.
I'll make a motion that we hire an outside firm to perform salary range and job description review every 3 years.
Starting now.
Sure.
Second.
And discussion.
Are we putting any kind of monetary connection to that motion? Because we didn't budget for any of that this year or next. And, you know, you guys don't have any money. So I'm being serious.
Yeah.
No, that's a
it's-
good point.
We're also being
Yeah.
told that we're gonna be flat or reduced in our budget. So is this the right time to be doing this? I'm not against it, a third-party consultant, but
Just to do it though, doesn't mean you're gonna implement it though.
no, we still have
No,
to pay
we
for
still
the
gotta pay,
consultant.
we still gotta pay the consultant.
That's what I'm concerned about. And I know consultant fees can be
We,
from
we
0 to
forget that we
60.
don't have money.
I get you. I know where you're at.
How much is,
Can y'all bring back 3 quotes to us? I'm just kidding. But seriously,
Well, who are you? You say hire an outside firm. Who's the outside? I mean, what outside firm does that?
a lot of them.
Oh, there are.
There are a lot of firms, but we would
Okay.
leave that up to Beth to find the best one.
Well, like with when we do our audit, we put out for bid.
Right.
So why don't we make a motion to put this out for bid and bring it back to the board for review, not hire somebody. We just made a motion to hire an outside firm. Maybe we should bid it, bring it back with its pros and cons and then revisit it. Or did you revisit it? Or do we have
We
information?
had the workshop. What we
I missed
came
the
up with,
workshop. That's
We're
my
bringing
fault.
it to the board now. The workshop that was
Just my comments.
to, you know, to make sure that we're staying current, in what the job descriptions are, what the salary ranges are, not doing it in-house, so it would be a third party. That
Yeah,
was
the idea I think is great. I agree with the motion. But I also hear, and that's the first thing I thought was, oh, that we're gonna hire a firm to do it. Well, like Erica said, we don't have money. It's their expense. The 4 entities have to pay for it. So shouldn't we figure out how much it's gonna cost first and then decide whether we're gonna vote to approve it or not?
When I looked at this, I thought, it's an investment in your future. You gotta have guidance. And if we're still under the ceiling, then I don't know that we need to do it every 3 years if we're far beyond
We could even do
that,
every five.
that space.
You don't have to be three.
But, that said, we should know what it would cost
Yeah.
first.
Can I clarify what the motion was to do that for the directors or for fix a white staff?
Just the director. It was just the co-director.
That said that she
The rest of you
was
guys do.
not capable of doing.
What's that? Say it again.
That said she was not capable of doing. She recommended we hire an outside company to do it.
So she can get those 3 bids?
Well, I don't know if we have the capability of directing Beth to do anything of the current situation.
No, we can direct her to do it. Absolutely.
So
That's what the wish of the board
we would
is.
be voting to require the board of directors to make this happen, however they see.
Got it.
She's a member of SHRM too. SHRM has a whole list of people that do this work. You can find somebody. that can help them.
So what's the motion?
Not now,
You one on the table.
I will revise my motion. How's that? I will revise my motion to request the directors ask Beth to go to bid for a salary and job description review, period. I'm not gonna put a time frame on it, because it's just to get it started.
Is this a motion necessary for you guys to ask us to?
Yes.
Okay.
I
You could come in my office and ask her this and it was not.
Send you a text.
Yeah, but we're being formal, so let it be.
We have to-
What?
we have
I
to
said
show
we're being
both.
formal,
So
so.
we have to be
gotta
sure
go.
both on board.
Right.
Yeah.
That's important for the board, though, you know, we're recommending salary and job description changes and things like that, so that's really our preview, so I mean, again, it better come through this process, and
Yeah.
should be transparent, that's all, yeah, I agree.
And I would think that the professional that does the salary range, they'll also probably recommend how many years,
Yeah,
that's true,
yeah,
would be
absolutely.
best too.
Mhm.
Who's seconded?
Dan, did you take your
Dan,
second?
you want you want to still second, okay,
Mhm.
got it.
Now the discussions. So just with that, to make sure, I mean, just an explanation to our directors when directing to direct, to get the direction.
That's why I said request. I didn't say direct, I said request.
That we be very specific and that the job descriptions will be specific for each of the directors, not for a librarian, not for a Palmer, not for a Parks and Rec director.
For each
Specific
entity.
for each entity.
I think
Correct.
that's an excellent idea.
And that was
And
what was
salary.
discussed is for
Okay.
each
Oh,
entity.
oh,
No,
I
no,
know
no.
that.
We
That's
did
good.
discuss that
Mhm.
the job descriptions were by entity.
And with that, I mean, we need to acknowledge to whoever is looking at it, that that means they're gonna have to understand what the job is that they perform. I'm assuming they do that, but I wouldn't want somebody that just says, oh yeah, we can do Palmer, a rec director. Okay, we can do this. No, they need to understand what the real job is. Lois's job is different. I mean, you guys are all.
We're
different.
closer
Got it.
in terms of
Closer,
job
okay.
description, but
Yeah.
I
I'm good.
think.
During the
Parks-
workshop, we did make sure, and Beth was on board, that she does understand that each entity is its own and is unique, and the director's jobs are unique to it.
Well, there's different revenue levels too, right, to each of the entities.
Yeah, but it was more of the overall oversight and the day-to-day type of stuff that was in the responsibilities. No, you're not. You're helping, please. Had a bad day, so this works.
Is there more questions on getting this bit? So all in favor of directing the directors to direct the HR to put out some bids, to find out.
I,
Good, okay, good.
Easy for you.
Just trying to help you out there.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I was trying to repeat that whole thing. Okay, going on to number 2. Trying to keep entities, both of them side by side. The committee, well, at the workshop thought that there should be a section added, to have 5 measurable goals established in 5 different categories. And if we jump over to the entity directors, they actually listed them out as management, administrative, financial, fundraising, planning, training and development, collaboration. And then part of switching back and forth, but the goals to be established by a joint effort of the directors and their advisory committees. And we wanted measurable goals to be part of the review process, as opposed to just the reviews to actually have measurable goals. So the directors came up with the 5 different categories as a collaborative work. So do we want to, what we're doing is trying to refine that review process. We're moving forward to try to make it new, but still established. Does anybody who was at the meeting want to fill in some more of that? But what we went through, Stan, you would ask.
So I think the review process as it stands in the last iteration included a goal section, which you kind of added but didn't really factor in. And the discussion from my perspective was that the review process is improved and we want to take it to the next level. So as it stands with the questions that are there now, scoring, doing well is table stakes to keep the job and get the COLA. And then the goals would be added to be for the merit-based increase only. So it would be each year, the advisory boards and the director would craft 5 goals for now, starting point, that this board would then approve. And then going forward, when that review is complete, we would assess whether or not those goals were met. Whether or not the goals were met, that would determine whether or not there's a merit-based increase. The rest of the review stays, and is used to determine whether just job function improvement for the director's own information. And if there's a problem that needs to be addressed, we'd identify it right then and there. Which we haven't had to deal with. But really, the emphasis on creating the goals was to put it to be much more objective, easily measurable, and separate that to be focused on merit-based goal achievement, doesn't matter what you scored or what your advisory board, 3.5 or 4.2, it's more about whether or not you achieve the goals. So putting that in the process from the start. And that's the way I took it. And the only issue that we had with it was, well, what do we do about this year? Is it too late to put the goals in? Do we put them in and not weight them as much? Do we put them in and just go through it? You know, go through the process, but not really put any weight behind it just to get used to it. But that's the way I took that goal discussion.
The goals we took with, for this 0 to 6 month window for goals between now, from March to the end of the year. So it gives you 6-7 months for goals. The only concern I've got with the goals is they've got to be specific. General categories like training, this, that, the other thing, it may not be specific goals. Again, if you're doing a major building renovation or this, that, the other thing, that's part of the goal of fundraising. There has to be things that are associated with that. And so these got to be vital, specific, they got to be very substantive goals that we're measuring the director's performance on. If they're too lowballish, then it falls in that center area of the finances, people training, engagement, whatever it is. So again, that's the only thing we may have to spend a little time working with the advisory boards, whatever. What are the specific goals we're looking for? And again, I do agree. I think if we can grab on the sum for the next 6 months and say, this is what the goals are, get them on the performance review as an addendum and just use that as a measurement just to learn from it. I think that's part of the lessons learned, to your point, John.
Yeah, and I think we also discussed the fact of having it as on there, like kind of give us a status report on the monthly director's report. So that way
Right.
we know where you guys are at, and if we could be of any additional assistance, we're there to give it to you. We don't want to leave the directors flounder. We want to be able to make sure that they're successful in meeting those goals. And that was the big piece.
Thank you for that, because we were putting 100% weight of the merit on the goals. And then you would just bring the goals into your operations report on a monthly basis and you report to this fixer board and the advisory board, this is how I'm doing achieving the goals. So every month you're 20% complete, whatever. If something stalls, why did it stall? Well, the county didn't give me money. So it's not that you personally didn't drive it, but if it's out of your control, it's out of your control, guys.
Right.
What you can do is report it. And so how many goals are there? Are there 5? Are there 7? Are there 3? That's really, we got to discuss that a little bit, because I think we targeted 5 initially.
We thought 5 was
But
not too much, but not too little.
So the sources of these goals, the ingredients for these goals are coming from
The directors and the advisory.
no input from, when you say directors, sorry. Okay, I want to make sure. Okay, I thought they were left out of it. So the advisory,
Not this board,
got it.
the
Okay.
director.
Perfect.
So they'd be setting the goals.
Makes
with their
sense.
advisory.
So like when we were developing goals for the next evaluation period, we would be coming up with something, meeting with our advisory councils to flesh them out, and then they would become part of the following evaluation.
Yes.
Right? Is that kind of the process that was discussed?
And we would talk about it only being a 6-month for this year, because we're starting in May. Right.
And I could even envision, like with Matthew, I mean, it's your key management, along with you and the advisory board, to get together and say, what are the goals for the library? Because again, it's more than you, it's what are the key goals that the key staff bring forward? Yeah, you're gonna be the steward of that. But again, what are those goals that we're trying to establish? And so, I mean, it could be you alone, or it could be just your key managers and you working with the advisory board to kind of come up with what those are.
So Bill, just to clarify, and I think I understand what you're saying. You're saying that there are, we have personal goals, but you're talking about library-wide goals, entity-wide. In other words, what things we're working towards for the good of the library and the entity.
Correct.
And your capital campaign is just a perfect example.
Yeah, that,
I mean, because we kind of sold it to the commission, and a lot of us said, this fix it board, we're just, oh, I didn't know that. And so should that have been part of the annual goals, and all of a sudden, halfway through the year, this is what we're gonna do, we're gonna sell it. You know, and I think you probably, it's not, no criticism, I mean, you did a fantastic job, moving that along, yeah, kudos to you. But again, that was just an example. And Mark, it's no different with you, with a lot of your survey and stuff with the field and stuff like that. It's the right thing to do. But if Swiftmore comes back and says you can't expand any of that land, we spent $250,000 for what? And again, that's the stuff that we just have to get our heads around, just to be in a position that we're marching, but at what point do you?
Right, it's on us to say, this is the effort we put forth. We may not have accomplished the goal, but we did what we felt like was the best thing to do in that.
Accomplish it, yeah.
In that, my understanding, when we were thinking about categories, we tried to make them broad enough to where we could all use them, because we're not all the same. And that, the specific goals that you're talking about, Bill, could be put within each one of those, each evaluation period.
I mean,
So
it
we
makes
manage,
sense.
management administrative then would have the goal fleshed out underneath that umbrella category. And so that's where those came from. We wanted them to be different enough from one another, but also broad enough to where we could they would apply to all of us every year in some way, which, these would, because we're always doing all of these 5 things every year.
Ideally, I think the goals should be dictated by the community, as opposed to this board or the directors, even though our community involvement is probably poor at best. So really, it's gonna fall on the advisory boards to represent their community, to come up with these goals, which are then discussed with the director, because they're the ones being measured on it, if they're realistic or not. And then this board is the final stopgap to say, these goals are great, these goals are weak, or you know what about something that we talked about that is not addressed here? Maybe the county comes down and says, hey, through the 4 county appointees, we want to see this fixed. And then we craft a goal that way, collaboratively. I don't see this burden falling solely on the directors. I think the advisory boards are gonna have to step up. And come up with something.
So, that's what we had said.
Yeah.
Oh, and Dan, to your point, that's the reason, and I mean, Phil knows this, John probably knows it from his time on my advisory board, that I'm trying to put together a new board. Because the board that I currently have cares about clay and grass. And that's not what I do 97% of the time. It would be unfair to have them craft a goal for me, in my opinion, about maybe financial management. I don't know, because their main goal, no pun intended, is grass and clay. So that's not my job 97% of the time. I mean, I think when we do our presentation on our budget, you'll see it's less than 3% of our whole entire budget, revenue wise. I know we serve people. I'm not saying it's all about the money, but to your point is well taken. And that's what I'm working on as one of my goals.
That's a great goal.
Yeah, that's big.
Perfect. Good example.
And the linkages, I mean, the thing I like about it, it's on your performance review. So you're gonna be measured against this year's goals, then you're gonna craft next year's goals as part of the review process. So the next year goals will be out there already established when we review it. So as a fix-it board, we'll be able to see what the next year's goals are, have an input on that. When we're approving it, we're signing off on that, approving the overall review, which is good. So I think it links the two of them together.
Plus, it's also providing some support as well, as as earlier said, if you get needing help, let's see what we can do to help. Again, we don't want to see anybody fail. Sorry.
And I think that in the discussion at the
Workshop.
or whatever it was called, and you might not, even though it's gonna have a direct impact on the merit increases of salaries for directors, it's also an opportunity to take the money out of it just for the programs to stretch and to get better, bigger and better. And so, it shouldn't be just all for the, like Erica said, it's not all about the money, it's also about how your program can expand and grow, because if you give attention to something, it's more likely to happen than if you just hope that your programs get better. And so I think that was part of the talking too. It wasn't just about a way to figure out how much to pay the directors. It was how do we get bigger and better programs for all the entities.
So am I correct in hearing you, Dan, about what, you don't really agree with the 5 categories that the directors came up with? Because I'm not really super comfortable with a couple of those categories for me because I'm so different. And if we're gonna talk about our advisory boards, you know, helping direct those goals for us, that seems to make a lot of sense for me. So, I mean, if I had the freedom to do that, I would feel much more comfortable than trying to squeeze something in a category that really doesn't pertain to me that much.
Well,
I would agree with you.
in our meeting, we just said, add a section for 5 measurable goals, hopefully not all in one category. That was what.
No, but I don't want to offend my
No,
other directors
Let
about,
Sandy finish.
Mark, do you have an idea of 5 right now?
well, actually, I'm meeting with my advisory board Tuesday night, and we're gonna go over a lot of this
Because
stuff.
maybe that's what we do for this go around as an experiment. Kind of maybe a little more guidance from, because the entities are different. Don't forget that, even if you're doing the same things, it's vastly different.
but at the
Well, mine
meeting,
are
we did
financially
not-
driven.
At that meeting, we did not say they had to be in 5 different categories. We
Correct.
said there should be 5 or so
Correct.
categories.
Correct.
Great,
And then
so be
come up with-
flexible.
So if you had 2, as long as they're not, like, what we won't say is 5 financial goals.
Okay, I still, you guys are beating around the bush. I wasn't at the meeting
I mean,
and I hear what you're saying. I think the goals are great.
Yep.
And you're beating this up. I feel like you know, all these concepts and let's put that in on the directors. Who's gonna bring us these goals? The directors
Yeah.
are.
and we can
Okay,
tweak them
so
from there,
let's
because
just cut
because
to the
what did we
chase.
talk about a couple of months ago? We talked about helping them. And understanding what those goals are throughout the year and being able to push those along and say, hey,
Yeah.
I think,
But let's-
you know what, I know somebody who can help you do that, and just like you're collaborating now, and I think that's the best way to start.
So cut to the chase.
Right.
Let's tell the directors to get with their advisory boards. Stay with these 5 categories as best they can, or come back to us with other
Modifications or
categories
adjustments.
that are specific for. Who's to say that the 5 categories can't be different for each of the directors in a way?
That was my question.
As long as they're measurable,
Bingo.
accountable, and able to track. And we can do that for all their goals, and they're generally in these management. That's, everybody's got management.
Hopefully.
Everybody's got planning, everybody's got training and development.
If we follow the SMART goal, there's specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and trackable.
That makes sense, Dan?
So if we do those SMART goals, specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and then
But it's
trackable.
February. It's February. When are they supposed to be back here with those goals? March? Ain't gonna happen
Well, we got, by August, they should be in place because we got 6 months. We got,
by August.
and hopefully it's maybe.
So May?
June or July, because again, if we're writing reviews in November, we probably want most of the goals achieved at that point. That's all.
We
Yeah.
want measurable, we want
What you're saying
accountable.
is,
Hit the ground.
Set it up.
it's kind of set it up and maybe not use them for that purpose. By the time we get them, might be April or May, and that doesn't give them a time to achieve anything by September.
It's gonna be May.
So maybe we just have them, and we just go through the process on the review process, but that we don't use that for merits this year.
Bottom line saying, if we don't start it
We gotta
today,
start,
we
right,
won't be using it next year.
that's true.
So get it
So-
started.
Get it
Who cares
started.
if
We
use
may
it
not,
this year?
we may not use them at all this year, but at least let's get something on the table.
And they won't be pump
Let's get
fake
the-
goals, they'll be
Exactly.
legitimate goals.
I'll go back,
I'll
our
support
advisory
that all
board,
day long.
I'll go back to what Dan said, our review process this year went so much smoother. And in my opinion, it was much more involved, and we had no conflict really, and we got a lot more information about our directors. And it has pushed us into hiring somebody to come up with better job descriptions and better salary ranges, because we found out we've got a problem. And we're gonna resolve that this year, so.
2 years ago, the process of review was the horror channel. Last year was the Hallmark channel. Or this last one was the Hallmark channel.
So,
Much
so
better.
let's tell them to get going on it, bring it back to us by May.
And remember that it's through December too. It's January first to December 31st is the review process. That's
No.
wonderful. Yes,
No.
yes,
It's,
unless you change it.
He's right,
It's January.
because we got our mayor
did
in
our-
January.
Yeah, we do.
Got
oh,
it.
that's right. Okay, well, the
You're thinking of
review
COLA.
process,
COLA goes, you know.
yeah,
fiscal
well,
year.
the
So
review
this
process, we
is
do the
for
reviews in November.
November,
But the
but it's
merit
for the
was
year.
Correct.
It's for the year. That's all
Right.
I'm saying.
Okay.
So we
But
do
they don't
have
get
6
the-
months ahead of
Yeah.
runway. That's all I'm saying, guys.
Well, somebody make, like,
I
make a
sent the
motion.
motion. Phil?
Real quick, just want to jump in real quick. And so we thought that the directive on this task was to come up with categories. That's why we came up with it.
No, you,
You're right.
We're not necessarily pushing this. We just think if there had to be categories, we thought this is a way to conform to that.
And
If they don't have to be categories, then that's fine by
I
us.
think you're a good guide, and I
Right,
think
yeah.
that was really good
And-
you came up with, but like. Say, for Mark's sake, see, maybe he only needed, he's gonna do 2 under one
Right.
category.
Or maybe he's got a
Correct.
category we don't.
Right.
Those are not
That's
set in
right.
stone.
they're
But-
not set in stone.
Right.
They're not set in
And
stone.
in terms of the number that's being discussed, like I think our consensus prior to the workshop was that there'd be 2 or 3 goals for the directors because we have annual plans of service, we have strategic plans, we have job descriptions. So if we're limiting it, that's also a good thing, you know, if you're saying no more than 5 or exactly 5, I think we just need to be clear about what that is. And then for whatever the experiment is, if we brought goals back in March, which I don't know if that's achievable or not, that gives us roughly 5 months or so before we have to start writing our self-evaluations. So that's an experimental period, but I don't know if we can all get that done by March. So,
I mean,
yeah.
to Matthew's point, if we were to come back next month with experimental goals, if we're close to
Pretty much.
50% achievement by the end of the year, I think that would be called success.
Yeah.
You know, so it's not that we have to achieve the goal.
Well, you may be able to cap it for 6 months. so.
Right, and I would echo Matthew's point, like for my staff, when I give goals, I would almost be setting them up for failure to give them 5. I think that's a lot. I think with, you know, what we have to do with the little that we have, and I'm not asking for a tissue to cry on. But, you know, for example, today I was helping staff unwrap chairs that came individually wrapped and we had a program coming in, go reuse them. So that's not a director's job, is it? So, but we do what we have to do with our staff, you know, and to give any staff member 5, I think is a lot. I think up to 5 is fine. I think, you know, if we have an opportunity 3 to 5, again, that's just my opinion, and I think it mirrors kind of what Matthew was saying. I
I
think
have a
5 is
question. So I'm just thinking about this in my position at the high school. So like I get an evaluation done every year and I sit down, I figure out what am I already doing, right? And then I say, what can I make, how do I make that better? I mean, is that kind of something that you guys are that is a part of your?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so it's not like you're like recreating the wheel on like, you have to do
This is
5 more things.
more of a format thing almost, because
Right.
we already have, we always have goals. You know, we always have things we're working on or that we're striving toward. And the question is, what are we setting up to report on? You know, by the end of the year, what's important to us, what's important to our advisory council, what's important to the board.
And I
And
think-
that's what this whole process is trying to make some sense out of, and we get that.
Well, the
So,
reason we
yeah.
came up with 5, and this was with the discussion with Beth, anyone who's there, correct me if I got this wrong. But they were saying that the goals would be the merit raises, well, with 5 of them, they're 20% each. As opposed to giving you 2 goals, and if you fit, it's a 50%.
Right.
And that was the idea of coming up
Yeah.
with the 5. That's where it went, that was the
They
discussion.
were being weighted in a different way, and
So-
Sandy's absolutely correct, and that was the way it was, the conversation went. I mean, I know from my personal experience, I have to have 5 goals that are outside of my regular job that I have to achieve every year, and I have to come up with them. Now, it is a lot, and to Erica, you are absolutely correct. It is a lot to put on
I
somebody
don't
like
think every
that.
goal should be equally weighted either.
No, and you're,
Depends on the goal.
and you're absolutely correct. And you're
And
absolutely correct. They
if one
shouldn't,
entity
but-
has 10 and they're legit, go after them. And the other entity
Correct.
has 2, go after them, but they're solid and they're massive and they're huge for the whole year.
Right,
I think if it's something that is achievable, then we
Well,
could open that spectrum up to each one of the
I-
entities to be.
And I haven't discussed this aspect with the fellow directors, but I do think the idea of making the number consistent so that there's no more guesswork in all this, among us is probably the right way to go. And so if you want it to be even, then you're talking about 2, 4, or 5, in terms of being able to equally divide it. But, I'm sure everybody's anxious to say, okay, let's get this down on paper so we can, move on. So, but having the number be the same, because I don't know. Didn't you have like a bunch?
The
Well,
goal
like 10 or 12?
number.
Number of goals.
Right.
Yes.
I think we
Yeah.
should
Not-
find
not-
out
not
what
that
you
I
guys
could.
got first.
Right.
For myself.
Give it to us,
Yeah.
let us see how many you came up with, and go from
Mhm.
there. And then we can start setting numeric. I mean, you
Nope.
probably have some goals in mind already, right?
We're not asking for him to be here in March. Can't happen. So I don't see how that's physically possible. So, my right is if we tell you tonight to go put your goals together with your advisory board. If you want to get outside, input from outside the advisory board, that's up to you, in my opinion. So if you want public response, I mean, I agree with Dan that it should be farther out, but then again, a lot of the community is more interested in making sure that the softball game's being played on time, or that the TAP program gets off at the right time and the instructor shows up. They don't really care about the director's goals. So their advisory board should, and I agree with Erica. She's trying to grow a broader base for the advisory board, because Parks and Rec was all about grass and clay at one time. That's how it started, and it's grown. So I think we should be directing you to go get your goals and report back to us in March as how you're doing. And then in April, tell us how much better you're doing. And then in May, come give them to us. And then we sit down and we take a little bit at a time over the next couple of months and see how it's working. Because none of us have time to do it. We can't even make it to the workshops. Personally, that's me.
Why you look at me then?
workshop.
Yeah.
That was
I had an
my
excuse. So did I.
He wasn't there either.
Yeah, we're good.
But if we make the motion to tell him to do it, make it formal, let's do it. I'm telling Dan to craft it because he's a better wordsmith than I am, so I'm hoping he's gonna craft a motion here in just a moment. Things are just churning there and he's getting ready to do it. And
Yeah,
then
I just-
move on.
I just don't want a clarification on. We're not going by the fiscal year for our goals. We're going from January 1st to December 31st.
That's what your performance review, that's what your merit
Their
evaluation.
evaluation.
Okay.
That's the
Which,
evaluation.
which means that all these new things will be on next year's evaluation, correct?
No, they're gonna be on this year's, but it's gonna be modified.
It doesn't matter.
By June of this year, we're gonna have 6-month goals, the staff, hopefully, and we're gonna look at the next half a year from now until.
Well,
December
6 months is gonna be hard to achieve some goals.
I was gonna say, I feel like that
Yeah.
you should know your goals going into the year to be able to plan out your evaluation.
Well, and I agree with you, Erica, but for the 14 years that I've been in this seat, I make my goals whether the board asks me or not, and I know what I'm heading for. So, for example, one of my goals is to have one of my staff people achieve a certification as a Parks and Rec professional. Whether y'all know it or not, that's one of my goals. It's also one of their goals. So in 6 months, whether they're certified or not, come December 31st, maybe they've studied and they've got their test scheduled. I would say that would be a 6-month achievable, measurable part of that goal. So I think my colleagues probably all have something on their table. Mark, I'm sure you'd love to get a parking lot, right? But you're working on that. You've had meetings. You can say you've done 6
10
months.
years.
Right, for 10 years, you were, so.
It's not achievable. You weren't there for the.
Exactly. So you know what I'm saying, Eric?
Yeah,
I think
I
that we
get
could
it. I
take
just feel
whatever
like-
goals are decided on and say, what is a measurable 50% of that? The building that I'm working on is not gonna be built. That's gonna take 2 years, but I can come back and say, we've made it through this, we've got our building permit, blah, 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 and you guys decide whether or not I've done my job.
Goals vary.
Could I?
Talk about what Phil said. I think if we wait till May, that's too.
One meeting.
Thank you.
I think that's too late. We don't, I mean, this is a model, we're practicing, we're trying out what it's gonna be when it becomes that part of the deal. I think they should be able to get them together by April. I mean, but if you wait until May, you've got June, July, but another month or two will make the difference, I think. So I think it will.
And this is to move our whole review process along. We're working on it. It's still a work in progress. And if we don't I think let's move on, let's get it going. But, you know, and I personally won't be there for the next review, but when it comes up, I think the board will look at the fact that this is a new idea and work with it. And then for the following year, you'll have a chance to, you know, just like we're doing now, have another workshop next February to go over what worked good and what didn't.
I can personally come back next month with 2 or 3 goals
I can
that
too.
you can judge me on.
In all due respect,
By
we've been
December
doing this
31st.
every year. I mean, whenever I do my. annual
Exactly, we know
report-
you guys do it, but they're never
Right.
written down. They're,
Yeah,
you
they
guys,
are in my annual
They don't come
report.
here.
They
in your
do.
annual
Okay, so what
report,
I'm
but
saying
they're
is
not,
we'll bring them.
but they're not part of your review. is
I mean,
what we're-
No,
And
no.
then, but see,
But
that's
that's
the
what I'm saying.
change, we're
That's why
adding
it's
it now
so-
to the review.
And that's fine. I can bring them next month.
Absolutely,
After
You all feel that
discussing
way?
it with my advisory board.
yeah.
If I may, I'm gonna steal a little bit from Erica.
Oh, God,
We are grass and clay,
right,
okay? We aren't,
no.
what's he gonna do? Train the Ospreys to catch foul balls and bring them back to the umpire?
That could be a good idea.
I know.
That's cool.
But
That would be cool.
either that,
It
or we
would.
could have a turkey shoot out there or something.
Yeah.
So I told you before, our board struggles mightily with the review process. We really do. To figure out what we should fill out on the forms and what we shouldn't, and how we should put it together. Everything that we've tried to do, and I won't say everything, but the only thing that we actually got done is we built 2 extra soccer fields. The county came to us and said they couldn't do it. They gave us a budget to work with. They couldn't do it. We were able to do it because we were all volunteers. And I went out, we got bids and we got it done. So I'm like with Mark, I don't know how you can sit there and actually judge what he's doing without the help of our board, because we were, you gotta remember, we did this for 20 years before we were part of PHCSA. So we had a way of doing things. We're still pretty much doing that, but we're trying to follow the rules of PHCSA. I think we do a pretty good job of that. But we talked about this a couple months ago. You just brought it up. What can y'all do to help us out? Well, we've tried to do 4 parking lots. We got nothing to show for it. We've spent our own money. We've spent over $100,000 of our money before we were part of PHCSA. And it was all money we raised from all 3 sports. And, you know, I don't exactly understand how Erica's side of it works, but our 3 sports raise their own money, fund their own things, belong to their own entities. Mark doesn't control them. They don't come to Mark and register. They all register individually. So I think some of these goals, and we talked about this, that's why we're having our meeting next Wednesday or Tuesday, was it Tuesday? We're gonna try and figure this out. Because we don't really agree with, not that we don't think they should have goals. That's not the point. The point is, we don't think these goals are something that we can really deal with.
Well, part of the reason is the job description that is written right now doesn't fit Mark's job.
Right.
So how do you write a review on someone who doesn't really have a
Exactly.
fitting job description? We're
And-
putting the cart way before
Right.
the horse.
But your there's- board
has goals, I'm assuming?
Yeah.
Okay,
So,
but they don't have to meet that. They don't have to meet those
that's what I'm saying.
criteria. Use whatever you want.
Okay.
It doesn't matter to us. It doesn't
Because
matter.
their goals are different.
Their goals are gonna be
completely,
different.
And I'd love
Exactly.
to ride whatever the advisory board's goals
Right.
are.
Right.
No, okay, that's fine. I'm just,
Yeah, no, don't stick, which is why I keep saying, don't stick to the cookie cutter. It's not. If you have goals that are outside of those 5 or outside of those categories, let's hear them.
that's fine. And that's, we talked about this several months back. We do have them and they don't come to fruition because we get shot down.
But I think you mentioned it, Bill.
Mhm.
That's an explainable reason why the goal wasn't achieved.
No, I understand that.
Exactly.
I understand that.
Bill,
It
I've been
just-
trying to build a building in Sunderland for 4 years, a 2,500 square foot building that Feast already built in a year. For the same exact reason.
How long we've been trying to get a parking?
Oh, I know how long, 30 years. I get
Actually,
it.
Bill, you know, pulling on what Dan said earlier too, I mean, the brick and mortar is a piece of it. But building all the parking lots and this, that, the other thing, that doesn't mean anything. I mean, how many people are attending? How many people are doing soccer? How many people are doing football? How happy are your customers? I mean, there's a whole other goal of this thing that, yeah, yes, you can provide the facilities. but if no one comes, you just wasted a lot of money.
But Mark, you have numbers.
But that's
You
not,
can
but that's.
Measure how many people are coming to football and increased over the last year. That's a measurable.
I'm saying that-
Exactly.
that could be a
And
goal.
was gonna
he brought
say,
that,
didn't you just give
he
him
brought
time?
that to y'all last. Not
Right,
right,
right, and I'm saying that
but
just
it's,
could be a goal.
it's a
That's all
difficult,
I'm not
I
challenging.
know,
No.
I get it. But I sit here and listen to all this and I understand, we are different. I understand that, I get it. It just makes it, our board has struggled with this since the day we became part of Fix It.
Because you're trying to make the cookie cutter mold. Don't do that.
No, we're not, we aren't, we are
But if you're,
not. We
but
sit there and just flat, okay, well, we can't do this, this is not part of it. Well, We, it's extremely different because their customers, they control.
right,
Your customers, We you don't don't. control,
That's
exactly.
not,
That's
that's
my
not true,
point.
Ron. My baseball and my soccer people,
her,
Well, I mean, but
they just pay a
general,
fee.
the
No, they pay a
neighborhood
fee.
of fall, of Palm Harbor's coming in, and those are your customers too. They're not signing up to a specific league. They're just loving what you do. And that is different.
No, she has clients just
No.
like they do.
I'm just saying,
Right.
baseball and soccer are exactly the same with Eastlake, the way they register. They don't register through us.
Right.
But they, instead of paying the electric bill, they pay a user fee.
But that's all they have. No other programs that they can.
That's what Palm Harbor started as, I know.
Right.
It was just soccer and baseball in Palm Harbor, not
So
even
we
football.
do want to work with whatever goals you have.
Right.
Yeah.
If you've got any.
I'd like to make a motion that the Fix It board requests that the 4 advisory boards come up with 3 goals by April, upon which the director's merit-based salary will be measured in October.
October or January?
November.
So,
Well,
Well, for the.
end of October, when the fiscal year ends, we then,
Fiscal
That's the
year ends
end.
end of September.
October 1,
The performance review is
performance review
no, the.
is in November
for
on
December.
whether or not they did the fiscal year, which ended in October.
It's for December 31st.
No, it's not. That is when that's when they get that's when they get their merit increase.
Look at
The
dates.
review
Look at the
is
dates.
from November first through October first through September 30th.
We're on fiscal
It's through the
year.
fiscal year.
Dates on the review, it's from January 1st to December 31st. If you
That-
want to
that's-
change the time period, guys, go for it. It's not, we kept it out of
It's
the
in the
COLA.
book.
The COLA was to October. We kept that separate. We wanted to give the COLA increase. And then we wanted to do the merit increase after that.
But we
guys.
based it on the same time frame.
Exactly. It's all based on the same time frame.
Yeah.
It's always been based on the
It's,
same.
it's always has.
Am
Then why are we reviewing them in November?
I think the.
Why are we reviewing them in November? If the reviews, if their increase is going to affect January first? I never get reviewed until after my year is up.
December, we approve it mid-December for January 1st. That's when the review happens, guys.
No, that's when
That's when
that's when the
pay happens.
increase happens, but the review is for the fiscal year. Yes, it is.
Someone's got to look at the
I know, we
records.
got a manual, don't we?
Ron?
Yeah.
Ron?
We got a manual.
It's in process.
I think,
It's in
the
process,
I think the written evaluation form is still free.
But what we've done is.
We changed it from.
Now-
Actually,
Evaluations always happen a little bit before the actual evaluation period end date. That's just the way it goes, because otherwise you're just playing catch up. But I think it's written about a calendar year.
Because we write our, I'm sorry, Ron, we write our staff, like, my employment managers write their staff member reviews in September, even though the fiscal year hasn't ended till September 30th. We want them to get their raises October 1st. So staff below us gets their raises October 1st. You can't write it October 1st and get it into payroll on time. So it's got to be written in September. Or
And-
October. That's what you're
and for
saying, right?
these, we get the paperwork back in November. That's when they're due, right?
Right. So you guys have a
Evaluation
month.
date, 10/31. This is from this past one. The evaluation date was 10/31.
And that's what I was about to say. You,
Well, the evaluation date, but that's to be reviewed, right?
it covers the period ending October 31. The process takes a couple months
Right.
and the merit raises go into effect January.
Well, then if it's October 31st, that's not calendar or fiscal. What are you guys doing?
Wow.
I'm just saying, that's not right.
I'm going back and I'm
The
looking at
purpose of, the purpose of the motion is to solicit
Yeah,
three
let's get right.
three topics from each as goals,
3 goals.
pending a confirmation on the date that will be applied for the review.
Sure.
I'll restate the motion. The motion is
Yeah.
that the Fix It board requests the 4 entities, advisory boards, come up with 3 goals by April 1st. Upon which The director's merit-based review will be based for fiscal year 2025.
And I will ask Shelby to review the dates for you guys.
For April's meeting. You presented it.
For discussion review. whatever, April's meeting.
I have a question, but I have to wait for a second, right?
Yes, second.
Second,
Okay, so the way you stated that, Dan, the entity directors are not involved in their goals?
The advisory boards are supposed to come up with the 3 goals, is the way I stated it. If they don't interact with the directors, then we got a problem.
Okay, because I thought what had been discussed during the workshop is that the entity directors would initiate them, take them to their advisory councils and boards for feedback to flesh them out, and then.
I see that as backwards. I think the community should be driving these goals. And the directors should be working to implement what the community wants, not the reverse. But at this point, that's probably easier and will probably happen. The way I described my motion, it's gonna be more difficult, and it's gonna put more priority and onus on the advisory councils to actually do some work on this.
okay.
I think, Madam Chairman, what's happened probably is it's almost like a game of telephone. Yeah, because we weren't there and we were trying to do what we thought was requested of us by the FICSA board.
Lois, it doesn't really matter whether or not you agree with the process, because you guys are not the ones that are driving review.
No,
And the goals are set by the community, approved by the FICSA board, and then whether or not you guys meet them is gonna determine whether or not you get a merit-based raise.
Sure.
So it's not as if you guys should be leading this charge,
no.
but I think that the idea of having categories was useful to give some guidelines for the advisory board.
But it doesn't have to be across the board, same categories for all 4.
And to be fair, I don't think any one of us want to lead the charge, Dan. We would just like the charge decided. Because this conversation is exhausting.
I agree, that's why.
For 10 years.
So while we're in the comment part of this, I still go back to the motion, and you're saying the advisory board, so. With that, there's no direction except for the representative sitting here at the table to go back and drive this with the advisory board, and I think that's a mistake. I think the directors should take it back to the advisory board. And be there for the development. I think it is the responsibility of the advisory board to come up with the measurable and accountable. Categories and actual goals with the input, of their director, because the director is the one that's gonna be bringing this back to us. So I think they should be directly involved, I hate that word, I keep saying it. I think they need to be involved in getting this done, or it's gonna flounder and we're not gonna get it back by April. So I think they need.
So is that a motion?
I'm not changing his motion.
No,
This
but
is
he
just
could leave his
comments.
motion and then just now
The
direct
reason-
them
the
as a
reason
second
why
motion
I
to
said
go
the
interact with the advisory boards.
It's because I think the advisory boards are driving. The reason why I said merit base is gonna be based on this goal is to make the directors get involved. Because if I'm gonna be measured on this, I personally, as director, would make sure that my advisory board did it. and
Exactly.
they did it right.
And Dan,
If you choose not to, that's on them.
if you guys are talking my livelihood,
Right.
I'm gonna make
Yes.
sure that I get my 9.5 up somebody's dupe if they're not doing their job at the advisory board level.
Bingo.
I'm gonna make sure,
Mhm.
And if
whether
you
you're in
don't-
town or not, the other
Right.
12 members
If-
are gonna have an email from me.
And if the directors don't do that, their goals are gonna be not aligned with what they can achieve. Or it's gonna be a direct reflection on their inability to manage and work with an advisory. Which is also a
Oh crap, I gotta put
reflection
that
on
as a goal.
their
Can I work with my advisor then?
Agreed.
That is a good goal for your advice.
And that could be the goal. Hey, fix
That's one of your
this,
goals,
fix
Karen.
this advisory.
Any other comments?
I hope not.
Based on what John showed me the dates, I
Told
mean,
you we can
it
make
is
an
10,
hour.
9:30. I meant to say that, I'm sorry.
Okay,
Yeah.
all in favor of Dan's motion? Want to state it one more time? Are we all clear?
I'm clear.
Okay.
I'm clear.
Okay, all in favor of the
Aye.
motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
So we're bringing them back by April, right?
Yes,
Yes.
Okay,
but I would be prepared if you've got something at the next meeting, it would behoove you to bring it up so we can beat it up like we did tonight.
okay, let's try to get through these last couple, we still have a couple to go through, guys, let's move on.
Just one.
We had employee input, was discussed at the workshop. We said some kind of 360 or other agreed upon method. You want to continue to add that to this year's? It's up to the board. But that was also discussed, is to have that as part of the evaluation process, not the merit raise one, the other evaluation.
Makes no sense to me.
No, you wouldn't.
Just spin around in the
Good.
chair.
You're exempt.
Actually, he's the only employee, so he would get 100%.
Exactly. He'll just evaluate.
Well, I think it's a bad
Just
review.
self-evaluation.
That'd be like, what happened?
What
That's
happened?
self-esteem.
So what do you guys think of it?
Are we talking about a 360
Yeah,
review?
60
Yeah.
review.
I've always supported that, but I don't support putting a Google review as a part of the 360. I think it should be my board, myself, and my staff.
And it shouldn't be part of the evaluation process. This is an HR tool. It's good for, what we describe as a pulse check. We came up with questions that we thought, well, I'd say we come up with them. Beth, I think, got feedback from Dan and Bill, and then we communicate with her, kind of try to come up with a representative sample that would be a pulse check that you could add to as needed, but it's an HR tool, but it's not an evaluation. You're getting feedback so that you can see how your directors are doing in certain ways. And there's a lot of different ways to do it. I mean, you could do it every year, but if you do it every year, making a really long survey could get exhausting for people.
I don't think it has to be really long.
No, that's why we.
Or if it is a fuller 360, like we experimented with at Palm Harbor Library, it would maybe be different groups, on a rotating basis from year to year. So, I don't know. If the idea is to do something every year as a pulse check, we came up with some questions that we thought would be good that you could add to as needed over time. That's what we put in the.
Isn't this something we're asking the directors to do? Not mandating, we're not doing it, we're asking them to put it in place.
Ideally, it's through HR, and there should be similar questions for all the entities, so that's the only thing, because if you have questions for you, different questions for you, you could get a false sense of what's going on. So if you could come up with a standard format of what those questions are, and Beth and your inputs are wonderful on that one, so what are the questions? And I do agree with Matthew, they should be out of the performance review, that this is input into you, and what you do with it with HR, because you could do skip level meeting, there's a lot of things you could do to get additional feedback. But if that's what you're just trying to use that as kind of a driving force.
We talked about, Dan brought it up a long time ago, Dan, when did you? About the QR code about, how are we doing?
That's something separate, that's a
I know, but
community
that's
input.
still,
But the 360 feedback was something that I personally wasn't comfortable, and I voted against Lois's reviews 2 years in a row. Because I couldn't answer the questions about him, whether or not she was doing a good job with her employees. Because we didn't do an employee survey. So that's why I said, we're doing an employee survey this year as an advisory board. Whether we require all the advisory board to do that or not is up to you guys. I say we do, just because how can we take the advisory board's review at face value if we know that they're not getting employee feedback in a legitimate way that we have now Beth to help with?
So on their review, there's a question for us to answer is what does the employees think of them?
It's,
Or
are
feedback.
they doing well with the employees, how they interact? There's several questions about how they interact with their employees.
that the advisory
That
board
the advisory board
sees and
They should know
answers.
that, fix the board would
Not
not
you.
know that necessarily.
Right.
So this would go out to their advisory board,
Right.
not their employees.
You're not familiar with the actual review process. Oh my gosh, you're
Nope.
so lucky.
Sitting
So-
here, catching on as much as possible.
But this year,
You're new, so you don't know about
But this year
Yeah,
we
I
did
never-
something different. We had specific categories that the FIXA board was responsible for reviewing each of the 4 directors on our own. The knowledge that we obtained from the interaction we got here, which broadened the review process. But what Dan's saying is if the advisory board, if you're sitting on the advisory board and you don't know how her employees feel about her, because there is no 360 review, then how can you honestly answer the question?
In answer to Ron's question, okay, I think that whether it's employee surveys with your senior management, whether it's the self-assessment done by the director themselves, all of these are data points that add to the wealth of information, okay, to make the final evaluation in terms of the job that any one director is doing. Okay, if you do an employee survey and you have, 5 managers that complete this survey, simple questions, okay, one might be, disgruntled about something you just did with them, okay, so it stands out as an anomaly. It doesn't necessarily bring down the evaluation, but I think everything that you do from different perspectives is valuable as data points. So I don't have a problem with that. I mean, I think it was a very thorough evaluation this year. Okay, for the first time in many years, because we got a lot of different data points, a lot of different input from different perspectives.
But that doesn't really matter when it comes to if you're gonna get an increase or not, because it's only your goals. It
No,
gives you the data points.
I agree with you, but
But how is
it's
the
good for
board-
your own self-development, okay? Your own personal development going forward, your own professional development going forward. I'm not, I'm not saying it should be tied into, it's like the Google reviews. Should that be tied into what kind of raise the director gets? Okay, I think, we always look to improve. We always look to try to do better, to correct the mistakes that we make and to move forward. So, I mean, knowledge is power. Librarians all believe in that. So I just think that the more data points that you have as you go forward makes you a better professional in whatever field
I
you're
agree
in.
with that.
And
But I
there's-
do agree that it shouldn't be tied to.
And Erica, there's
percentage you're gonna
5
get.
questions on the review that directly relate to management or to director involvement with staff. That, and to Dan's point,
Hmm.
unless you have the data point or unless you see the day-to-day interaction, and the advisory board side, they're not saying it. We as directors, unless we intimately know the directors and their work, their staff and everything else, we won't know the answers to that either. So that's the reason for the 360 and getting that input. To Matthew's statement, does it have to be annually? No.
The question
The other
is,
thing-
while we're actually trying to work through this review process, do we or do we not want employee input as part of the review?
Yes.
We want a mandate.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's what we need to do. I don't necessarily know if we have to
Come up with the answer
come up with
now.
well, we do, because they're gonna put it, know what's gonna be there. But we're trying, the whole idea of the workshop is to figure out what's gonna be in or out of those evaluations.
So I'll make a motion that we require the advisory boards to add some sort of employee feedback in their annual review process.
Second.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do it.
Any
That way, no.
discussion?
The only discussion on that, I would have had Beth do it, Beth coordinate, because if every individual is doing it, the information is gonna be all over the place. I
Well,
could
that's
skew
really
it
not
to
fair.
just, not to praise Matthew, just the 5 questions I'm gonna ask. You know what I'm saying? You just have to be careful, or I could go after Matthew, say, these are the 5 questions I'm gonna ask. So you just have to be really careful, and they should be consistent questions
Well, yeah,
across.
standardized, is what you're
But
saying.
it's standardized, and that's not what I
Like,
heard, though. I heard individual
Well, good
questions.
at communication.
So the advisory boards need to require them to do some sort of employee
No,
feedback.
no, Beth needs to do that. It needs to be an independent party. Beth has to come out with that, the survey, your Google survey, whatever it is, goes out to the employees, it comes back, and then she determines the data, then the data is shared to whoever. I don't know who the data needs to share to.
Need to be shared to the advisory board. who are
Advisory board.
making
I'm
that.
okay with
Right.
that,
Mhm.
but Beth has to really be the main hub of that information in and out and sharing that back with us, I think.
The reason I said that it doesn't make sense to be part of the evaluation process is because if we hear back from employees, at evaluation time, we don't have time to do anything about it. So we get feedback at the end of the year, there may be something, and I know for sure there are things that I don't know about my staff or how they feel about me. But if I don't hear from them earlier in the year, I can't do anything about it. That's why it's a good tool. I don't mind the tool being required. But why is it required as part of the evaluation?
But what we can do is we use that continuous improvement section. We've got the goals and objectives, and these are the things I need to improve. Those improvements, those, if I had employees, I would list them right there. These are the 5 things I want you to work on next year. And again, it's not part of your goals and objectives. These are just improvement opportunities.
Well, could it be part of a semi-annual
It could be.
process?
To me, it sounds like it's something that's more of an ongoing,
No, but I
ongoing.
get what Matthew's saying. I'm like,
gathering.
I don't know you as our bosses, I don't know why you guys just don't do our reviews, because it's like when we ask the advisory board, they're not our bosses, you guys are. Yes, there's one representative from the board, but, Erica, you don't get really any involvement in the review process until it gets here, because you're not an advisory board member.
Who picks y'all's advisory board? Do
The
you guys?
advisory board does. In my
Your
situation,
people,
they
or-
vote their own people on. I don't know how.
So you guys pick your own people on your
We
board?
don't pick
We
them.
do have a motion. Do we have a second? Any questions? I think we did.
Dan, are you gonna amend to have Beth send it out to be sent to the
motion
advisory
is that
board?
the advisory boards are required to include in their process some data from an employee feedback mechanism.
Where
Whether
that
or not Beth-
mechanism comes from?
Whether that Beth comes from Beth or they make it themselves,
Right.
I don't care. It
Let's
makes
make it
sense that
ourselves.
Beth does it if we wanna play top
I would
down.
second that.
Okay, so we have a second. 'Cause
Okay.
we have questions on the on the current review. Those questions they're talking about, they have to be answered by the advisory board. So if they have input, they're better able to answer those questions. Is that the clarity we're looking at? Is what I'm hearing?
Yeah, because there's 5 questions on there that I just saw that do relate, which is, Dan, why you wouldn't answer, we wouldn't vote on it, because you didn't have the input on whether or not.
No one on my advisory board has.
Exactly, so.
That's a
having
sad
that
statement
additional-
though in itself, from the director of this organization, to know that there's people sitting on this board that don't know how I operate, don't know if I interact with my employees, and you're my bosses. Let that sink in for a minute.
Okay. Any more discussion on the motion?
Right?
Okay. All in favor of the advisory boards having a method to do employee evaluation, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that's through. One more, guys. and then go home.
That's almost it.
Okay, you just, okay, so we discussed it, we just moved on it, so what did we just approve?
That
Tell me what we just
the
approved,
advisory boards would get some kind, by their choice, some kind of,
of their choice,
yeah, that's what.
some kind of their choice.
So they can go on
That
Google
was
and they
not
can Google 5 survey questions and put it in the review.
But
That's a problem, we didn't establish the method.
We tried this.
Right, but the whole point was the advisory boards are answering the questions now, and they may have no input.
I make a motion that Beth send out the questionnaires to the employees, and the data be sent over to the advisory boards.
I think that's great. I second
Okay.
I'd second, I'd third.
it. You could second it. I'll
Okay,
shut
all
up.
in favor
Yeah.
of Beth making the questions, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, done.
And I'm not stepping on Dan's toes, because you said you didn't care where it came from, so it was perfect.
Just want some
Thank you,
data.
Phil.
It's in harmony. It's
Okay.
Well, it's not that, Dan just hit the nail on the head, it's the advisory board's job to do this. Okay, so,
Now we've standardized it for you.
no, we
You don't
haven't
have to worry about
standardized, we've standardized a method of getting them the information. Or
Right.
we've set a idea out to have Beth put something together so that the advisory boards have the information, but we keep saying it's the advisory board's job. Do the advisory boards have a job description?
I think you're picking things apart on this one.
No,
I really
I
do,
don't,
because
because-
the advisory board completes an evaluation of the directors, yes or no?
Yes, we do.
Okay, so
we
you do the evaluation. How can you identify with, not you, because I know you and I know not me when I was in that position, but other advisory board members, and I'm gonna use Erica as an example, do not know her day to day, correct?
A lot, 1,000,000%.
Okay, so how can they sit there and answer those 5 questions with absolute certainty? They can't.
So I mean, the first thing maybe we
So
should be
the
doing.
job is to provide them with the information so they can do the evaluation of Erica.
John, and I go with your point that you can point at me and you can point at a couple other members of the advisory board, and I know what I'm supposed to do. And I need to help so maybe we should be saying, hey, Mr. Advisory Board or Miss Advisory Board, you need to bring a job description to us so that it can be shared with all your members, because you establish your own members. She doesn't. I mean, we just established that. So it gets a little bit deeper, but I really don't want to beat it up anymore because I need to leave. And then if we're done with that, are we done with that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I'm done.
Yes.
So-
Good point.
So-
Because we can't.
But it
If
is a good
we're in
advise
the,
yours.
if we're in the new business
We
thing,
have-
I'd like to just state something. Eric and I sit on a board for, the downtown, what's it called? Erica
Palm Harbor Main
Matthew,
Street.
Erica Matthew and I
Matthew's on
sit
it
on
too.
the Main Street Board for downtown Palm Harbor. And it's a great organization and it's something that's kind of come together and I sit on it as a representative of PHCSA, kind of, sort of, but I don't represent you in any decisions. I'm just there to listen and bring back information to you. Erica's there as a director and Matthew is part of the downtown group. We're coming up on our centennial, right?
It's
100 year.
the centennial when Palm Harbor got its name. When it was changed.
From Sunderland
Name
to-
Palm Harbor, yeah.
Actual Palm Harbor, and there's gonna be a big celebration. It's gonna be longer than just a day. It's gonna be over a bunch of events. And we're gonna be celebrating downtown. One of the things that part of our redevelopment stuff that we've been working on for over a year and a half is a new street lighting program for downtown Palm Harbor. If you've ever been to downtown, there was a big Main Street improvement years ago, BP money funded. They put brick walkways and streetlights in. Those streetlights half of them work, half of them don't. So Duke Power has put a proposal together. We've created a street lighting district and the BOCC approved this past week,
Yes.
to fund the street lighting, $440,000 to put in new street lighting through the old downtown area. So I just want to bring you all up to speed because it does affect this board and that it's Palm Harbor and we're part of it and it reflects on all of our entities. It reflects on Eastlake and Eastlake Rec as well, because you all are part of that actual community. And you're going to be pulled into the Palm Harbor Centennial as well. So I think it's cool. I think it's exciting to see.
Yeah, and a note that funding is paid for by the businesses in the lighting district. It's not the county paying for it. They are paying an assessment monthly, annually. They are.
They're
The business
paying-
are gonna pay assessments and that'll go, it's a loan, basically.
Yeah,
but
the loan, and then they
not-
get paid back through
Yeah.
the assessments.
But the county is never, I mean, it's a huge,
They're fronting the money for
it's a
that.
Right.
huge investment for the county.
Okay, we have one more piece of business finished, then we can go.
Sorry, I just wanted to throw that
That's fine.
in. We just had that this afternoon, so I just
Okay.
wanted.
We had said, somebody says time to leave.
I heard it.
Yeah, leave.
Oh, it's 2 hours, okay. The other thing brought up was the PHCSA board needs to establish a maximum percent of merit raises. What the maximum percent would be going forward, and it was asked that we do it prior to them completing their budgets. So that they can budget for the max, so that they're not caught later, we give them a raise above their budget and they have to jump.
That's a very good idea.
So the budget period's April, May 1st, right?
We're presenting it May first.
Presenting it for.
So they're working on it
They're
now.
working on it
Yeah.
now.
For 2026.
So,
Yes.
so Beth is coming up with some type of range, I would think.
Well, no, it was up to us to establish the maximum percent. I don't think it had anything to do with it. As far as I remember, that had nothing to do with that.
Yeah, it was,
so
we
we can- yeah.
would present them with a maximum percent
So that
to
they can
budget
help
for.
them
The
budget.
merit part.
The merit
Merit.
raise.
All right.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Does each entity have a capability of the same amount across the board regardless of what their revenue is for their entity?
I might have a way of answering this question. If an increase is approved, percentage is improved for all 4 entity directors, and one of us, if I can't afford that increase, even if I get it, I just won't get it. So if I got an increase of 3%, but I couldn't afford, or if it was approved up to 3%, 5%, 7%, or whatever it is, but I can't afford that as an entity, I just simply can't accept whatever that additional amount is. It would be cut off in some way.
That's why the wording was to suggest that we change it up to.
Right.
So that
Yeah.
if we approve a raise for them of 7% and their budget can't do it, and we've already approved it, and we didn't have that clause in there, then they have to do it. They have to find it somewhere and juggle it around. And that's,
Oh,
so,
no, that wasn't my understanding.
So how do we?
So we can't,
We can reject a raise. I mean, because that
Basically-
happened to my predecessor. We didn't have the finances. He said, I'm not gonna take a raise.
but if we approve 5% and you say, well, I can only afford 3, that's fine. You just can't take 6.
Correct, correct. So
Right,
Erica, in the
right.
past, we've never known. So we
Yeah.
just take we take a dart and we throw it up against the wall and we say, all right, I'm gonna budget for 5% this year and hope that I don't excel and get 6%. So yes, I think we all have the ability, but it helps us to know now. So we can make an adjustment now before we present our budget in May and say, project for 5%, that's the max we're gonna get. And then if it's lower, great. And then we know we've budgeted for the 5%. It was always backwards before.
Funny thing, I'll get a line item says, my raise, 5%.
And there's a cost of living increase across everybody. So we've been following the county this last year. So we had 4.25.
4.6.
Yeah, but we only, the
4.6.
only ones that we vote on are those 4.
And then the
How they
4 is up
handle
and
the
above the
staff that
cost of
they're-
living increase. So they're getting the cost of living increase already. But we're just throwing darts at it, guys. If you're asking us what the merit increase is, without Beth doing a formal evaluation or having someone help her with doing the formal evaluation, we're just winging it, guys.
She just wants
And
a,
and for this year, that's what we have to do,
1%.
huh?
I recommend 1% merit increase, period. They got a bunch last year, 1% is the most of them I want to give. Anybody second that?
For the merit.
That's maximum. We're talking
Maximum.
we still have to vote on it
1%
next
that's
year,
1%.
whatever it is.
They're getting cost of living and giving a 1% increase.
So this isn't to vote on what the number should be.
No, this is to be.
Okay.
What they budget
We
for.
won't go any higher when we do them, so that they have an ability to
So budget
budget
for
ahead of
1%.
time
For next year,
for next year.
But
not
what
this
is-
year. This year, we don't know. So,
No, this year.
Doing
Well,
this year, yeah,
What do you mean this
we're
year?
talking about fiscal 26.
No, I'm talking fiscal 25.
That's not what we're
we
talking.
already did.
no,
it.
we're in
too late.
25.
We're already in 25.
Already got 25.
We're in fiscal,
The budget you're doing is for
26.
FY 26.
We're winging it this year, whether we like to or not.
Yeah, it's like we're coming up with,
Anybody.
we're limiting ourselves.
yes, you're right,
how
and
high
we are.
We are.
Thank you.
She threw out.
So I make a motion that we set the.
Well, you made one, didn't you, Bill? Wait,
Budget.
did you make a motion? Or were you kidding?
I was kidding right now. I think we just, but that's what we've done in the past. So we've kind of winged this process, guys. And if we're not doing it by cost of living data, if we're not doing it by what other people are getting, if we're not doing it by a survey evaluation, what are we doing? We're saying, okay, the budget should be 3%. If that's the maximum, Madam Chairman, that's all you're gonna get. If it's 5%, it's fine. 10%.
Well, we still have to vote on it when the time comes. We're just kind of giving them some kind of a guideline that we won't go over a certain percentage.
Is there any guidance I could have other than my own? Throw it, the
Well, I
dart,
think
I would go, okay,
For
10's
right
really
now-
safe, 1 sucks.
for right now, for fiscal 26, no, there isn't. But remember, the number that we're appointing is for next
Right,
year. It's
right.
not, I mean, it's gonna be for 18 months from now.
Can I ask a
Yeah.
question?
Erica?
So let's just say you said maximum of 10%. By the time we're getting ready to get our reviews, I pray to God you guys have narrowed down the range and done the things you're talking about. And the range is going to be 0 to 4%, because we're expecting a 3% COLA or whatever.
Right.
So we're not gonna get 10%, we're gonna get 0 to 4, but when I go put those numbers in
You gotta
and I
play with
take my
10%.
salary, I'm gonna multiply it by 10%, so
Right.
I make sure it's in the budget.
Right,
Right now, I
so
just
that
guess.
phantom number, I think needs to be have a little more science into it.
There will
Then
be, once
us-
we get the evaluations and the job descriptions, once that comes to fruition, but we have to give them something now to
Today.
budget for today, this month or next month,
Okay,
because they're presenting their budgets May 1
cool.
to
I
commission.
don't have a problem doing that.
So that's what
But
we need
could I
to do.
have a
We're just
little
giving them a
more-
recommendation of what to
Last year's was
budget for.
6%.
Right,
There was, no.
Right,
there
so
was
is-
different.
but there was one time when we jacked
No, but I'm
one of
saying the
them.
max was 6%.
But the
That's
max,
it?
right, the last year, the max was 6%.
Right,
Okay.
So
Okay.
if we mirror that,
Because right now, the number-
On top of the COLA, it was 10.5%.
Yes.
On top of the coal.
Don't,
So it's
Yeah.
not
you guys,
huge.
we talk about merit raises like they're separate of what they've already been given when it comes down to the money.
Well, technically, they are.
They're
different.
separate in that, yes,
Yes,
but
yeah.
as
COLA is
far as the
different from
budget's
review.
concerned, they're not.
I agree.
Yeah.
This-
That's
the
why when y'all
percentage
gave
is
us.
the same, so if
I'm
we're
shocked.
giving them a percentage, then we have to guess what the county's gonna give as a COLA. And then we have to guess at what we're gonna give.
You guys, we
And
don't
back
have to
to-
give what the
hold on,
county
back-
gets.
And that was, I was just
That was
gonna
our,
say
that was just our
Yeah.
policy,
Mhm.
It
okay?
wasn't a
But
policy,
back
it
to
was a
the merit
suggestion.
raise.
Mm.
Oh, wait,
It's just, that was.
No, I'm not done.
That was,
I'm
at the
not done.
meeting was the.
I'm
what
not
we
done.
got Was that people wanted.
I'm
to
not
be able to
done.
budget. Sorry.
Back to the merit raise. We talk about the merit raise. We've got goals. We're saying, what I heard was we'd have 5 goals. We'd put 20% on each goal. Well, that's BS. We can't do that. Because a merit raise, as we have set in our guidelines, is for specific reasons. It's for additional workload, for improve, for more. It's not if they got their goals obtained.
Just voting on what, 5 minutes ago.
That's what we
Okay,
recommended.
we voted on the goals. We didn't vote on how much they accounted to a percentage of a merit raise.
I said in the motion
It was,
that the merit raise is based on those goals,
on those goals.
100%.
Okay. The amount of the merit raise is based on those goals. We didn't set the percentages.
Yeah, that's what.
Correct.
Whether or not they get a merit raise is based on those goals.
Correct.
Okay, just because they obtain the goals, there's other reasons for a merit raise we've already established, unless you want to vote to disregard what we voted for in the past. Ron, pull up the past minutes when you get a chance. We voted for a merit raise to be increased responsibilities. There were certain reasons for giving a merit raise, not just because they did a good job. They do a good job to keep their job. They do a bad job, they lose their job.
And that's why the goals were so explicit, they were so important to us. That's where 100% of the merit increase was going to be achieving the goals. Everything you just decided is interesting, but it's not compelling. These are the 5 goals. If I achieved the goals, I could get my 6% increase. If I don't achieve my goals, I get 0.
Well, no, I mean,
Understand it that way.
You would get a
I'm
percentage of
sorry.
6%,
Well,
right?
If
You get 80%
That's
before, you
exactly
get
right,
60.
exactly right. Yes,
It was
thank you.
rated.
Correct.
Correct. I was just trying to use the extremes, that's all.
And that's the process that Beth presented to us at the meeting.
Correct.
I'll be honest, because I think at this table, the 4 director, I've been doing the budget longer than the other 3. You've never given me a number, and Dan, to your point, has my personnel line ever been in the red?
No.
Because I make damn sure that
No.
there's enough money in it.
That's
I
right.
believe my colleagues who have been doing a budget more than a year or 2 have never been in the red. So although it's a great subject matter, clearly you guys can't decide tonight. We're gonna do our budgets and we're gonna present them May 1st with the number we hope and pray. And to Matthew's point, if you say, Erica, you were so good, I'm giving you 8% plus your 5%, 13% this year, and I can only afford 6 in order to give my staff raises, that's what I'm gonna take.
Exactly.
So that's my quarter's
That's
worth.
the experience that
Yeah.
all the directors have done.
Yeah.
All the way back.
I just feel like we're on a merry-go-round, I'm getting
I know.
dizzy.
We put a buffer in there, but we have
Busy.
no crystal ball to determine what that final
I
number is
should-
gonna be.
And I
Push me
just
down,
wanna
would you?
add, when
All
we
right.
finished the
You're a good friend.
process last year, I talked to the county people and they go, merit raise, so we don't have merit raises.
No.
Since we have a little time, could we table number 3 for the next meeting?
I don't have, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah,
I just was
because
presenting everything
we
that
do
came up.
have-
Yeah, no.
Can I put a request in that I get an example of what this review looks like for us and for the boards that their boards get? I wanna
It's the
see
same.
both.
It's the
Okay,
same.
great. Then I just want that one, because I just need to see what I'm looking
So
at.
you
Just
just
a
text Beth,
timeline.
she'll send it to you.
That, okay.
You have a,
Or email that.
And just so you know, I was not on the board email, so I got the agenda like last
Yeah.
night.
Erica, we'll ask Beth to send it to you.
there you go.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
We'll take care of that.
Thank
And
you,
you'll make sure she's
appreciate
on
that.
And make sure you have an email.
Yeah, I just said.
Yes.
On the merit percentage table, we should also add the merit percentage cap for fiscal year 2025. Not that it matters for their budgets, because it's already set, but we should establish it for this year as well.
You already did it. No.
We didn't
No.
establish a merit
They did ask,
based
they did ask, but
cap
this one.
for this year.
But why do you need it? It's already done. Our raises for 2025 are done.
No, he's saying that we should have, the purpose
Fiscal
here
year
is that
25 is not done yet.
we
Yeah.
have a measurable
Yeah.
amount going into the review process, that we're not gonna approve any merit raises over a certain amount.
That's what we were just talking about, Phil. Just for 25 minutes.
Yeah.
That was, yeah, it was.
Oh my God, somebody kill me right now.
Yeah, it was.
Thank
For
God they're done.
2026 for their budget.
Yeah.
It was a
our budget
2026
starts in
amount
October.
for their new budget.
Right.
What Dan is saying is we should establish a percentage merit raise for this year that we don't have. Right now, it's just
We
open.
don't have.
We already gave it to them.
We
in
did?
January.
Yeah. This is FY, we're in
I-
FY
Wasn't it
twenty-six.
I don't remember giving that guidance.
No,
You
hold
said we
on.
didn't give guidance.
We did not give guidance for this budget season.
Right.
But remember, you're splitting, you're confused as to what we're talking about. This is for
He's
their
got-
increase.
He's 100% got it. We're on the same.
We're on the same page.
What I'm saying is
I'm in
we
a
should
different
set guidance now for 2025. The review that's happening, that's already.
We're in the middle of it.
That's what
We're
we're
already in.
talking about.
That
No,
is-
you're
that
looking
is
at the
what's being
2026 budget.
That was what was being discussed. Yeah, for January.
Remember,
budget
their
you're getting
increase
ready
is
to
going to
present.
affect
What,
in
what
on
salary year
1/1.
does that affect?
So
Six.
it's 2026
But
is
that,
what they have to
that
budget
26
for.
year start.
25, we're currently in.
Right.
They've already,
So that's what's
They
being
can't,
discussed.
Not for their
The
budget. I don't care
Yeah.
about their budget for this year.
Yeah.
It's already done.
Okay.
This board needs to come up with what we're gonna give them this year
That's what's being.
for 26.
FY 2026.
and 25.
Going to.
Right, it's for, Dan, we're saying the same thing. It's for 25 that we're working in right now,
We're
Yeah.
currently.
but we don't receive it until fiscal 26. This raise that you're
Yes.
talking about
It's-
won't
we're
go into
talking
the budget
same
until
thing.
fiscal 26.
They're right.
You are right. You're reviewing me for fiscal 25.
Right.
We don't get it till fiscal
The
26.
raise is in FY 20.
So that's what we were just talking about for almost an hour.
What we're-
That's what I was struggling with before. So
That's what I'm
that's what it is next year.
And what's on second?
Good explanation.
Don't rub it.
I agree. You're right.
Yeah.
It's still tabled.
You're right.
Let's do it in the minutes. Bill just said Erica was right. Erica with the C.
I've said that before.
I'm just
This isn't
kidding.
the first time.
I moved to adjourn if I could.
Okay, brilliant.
So are we moving this
Motion to
one to
adjourn?
the next meeting so we can think about it?
Yes.
Finley?
Yes.
We're gonna
I
have
would like
extra
to-
data.
I would like to motion that we move that agenda item to the next meeting.
Second,
So seconded.
all in favor of moving this forward till the next meeting?
All right.
Aye.
Because I won't be at the next meeting, unfortunately. I'm on a cruise.
I-
Where are you going? Where are you going
I
on?
hope your son got the time off.
Oh, yes, he did. Smart
There's like
aleck.
7 people trying to
We
get.
never approved the
He
minutes.
put his in a while ago.
We skipped over that, so.
Nope, we didn't approve the minutes.
Oh, yeah, we did miss that. It's right.
Yeah, sorry.
I make a motion, we approve the minutes from last month.
Any questions, comments?
I can get posted, but thank you.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, thank you.
And just, because we have everybody here, I won't be at the next meeting. John said he won't.
I won't be at the next
And
meeting.
Dan. Everybody else has to show up, or you can.
At the Palm Library Parks and Rec?
I know that was my mistake.
And it's gonna be in
I
Harbor
saw
Hall
that
again.
This afternoon. I already saw
Madam
it.
Chair, Harbor Hall,
What's
Harbor
the
Hall.
date of that one?
March 19th.
So you know that's spring break for everybody, just
That's why I won't be here. I'll be out
Can we
of cruise.
determine a quorum
anybody has a
tonight?
kid.
Well, that's what I'm trying to say. I mean, have to have a forum.
Are you
Yeah,
gonna
so
be?
Bill,
I'll
he'll be here.
Will you be here?
Bill,
Erica?
What's
I
the?
mean, yeah,
the
I
19th.
mean,
March 19th.
March 19th.
are we able to move dates of meetings at all or no?
Yeah, we just have to do it ahead of time so
yeah,
that.
we just have to
Like
notice it ahead of
now,
time.
like maybe I motion that we make it on 12.
No, that's our advisory board meeting, although we could cancel advisory board, but
Yeah.
our advisory boards meet
Oh,
on.
that's
Three of us
Right,
should
that's
not
why.
be
I
here.
know.
Oh.
That's a lot, and what if someone gets sick? I just think plan ahead.
No other dates good for me that month. It would be, I'd be April. I can be here at the April meeting.
What about the 12th or 26th?
I'm free both of those.
I'm not filled out.
Definitely have it on those.
Be a shorter meeting then.
Is this being videoed?
Yeah.
Yes.
This is perfect.
You wanna see
Can't
it?
do what I want to do.
This is perfect.
Right, Suzanne Lawrence.
We haven't adjourned yet, so.
No, we haven't, but
I can't
because
do
we're
it.
still deciding if we're gonna move the meeting.
You can't do? Okay, what about the 26th?
I hope so.
I can do the 26th.
Let's go team, let's go.
Bill,
No,
Well,
I cannot.
My sister.
Dan? Bill, can you do the 26th of April instead of the 19th?
Okay.
March.
Oh, March, I'm sorry.
I I teach at the university.
No, I
I'm
understand.
saying I can't, I gotta look at my schedule.
He
I-
said not yet though, so that's.
That's fine.
I
It's
may
a possibility.
be, may be fine, but I just have to look and see if I'm committed.
Other end,
I don't know.
Well, he's not a voting member.
I understand that.
It's like us, we don't matter.
Bill?
Or you already made the,
I made the motion,
to the what date?
the 26th.
I'll second it.
We have enough of us coming.
1, 2,
Trish, I won't be
Three.
here, so you'll have to take that meeting.
4.
That's an excusable
March
absence
26th.
if you can't be here.
I may be, yeah,
5.
I probably won't be there. I don't.
That's fine. We have 5 right now. The
I didn't
26th.
know you could do that yet.
We had five.
Harbor Hall.
Well, Cindy might be out.
Harbor Hall.
Might be out.
Isn't five, what's?
We need 5.
I'll be in Tallahassee.
Erica's Harbor Hall available on that day?
It is, I won't be here, but
No,
some, yeah,
we'll miss you.
and Trish may not be here either, so y'all may just have an empty seat up here.
Stephen can sit in.
Yes, Harbor Hall's available.
We'll get a lot more done there.
I'll leave the car running.
I may just sit in the car.
Stephen's
All right,
right.
anybody second?
I seconded
Okay,
it.
great.
Okay, do we have,
You got plenty of time.
have enough people that get? Before we move it, we wanna make sure we have a quorum.
I think we have.
You said yes, I said yes, Erica said yes, Ron said yes, Dan said yes. We have 5.
Mason selected for me.
Yeah, we did.
We're moving it because
Yeah, I know.
How many can make the
Yeah,
26th?
he can make the 26th too.
How many can make the
you
26th?
can make the 26th, and you're a voting member.
Oh, you're counting twice?
Sounds like a deal.
I mean, we have 5 for the 26th or
Oh, yeah.
5 for the 19th.
Yeah, we have.
I'm forgetting about Bill. Bill.
What if someone gets sick?
Uh-huh.
Now we're
See?
extending
I'm making
the
you feel
meeting.
better.
For 30 minutes to decide the date for the next meeting?
You got it.
That's enough. For the next minutes.
I did 5,
Go, 6.
6.
Right.
Okay, so we're doing it.
26.
It's at Harbor Hall.
We get out of here now.
All in favor of March
Yeah.
26th, please say aye. Opposed?
So. let me tell you-
Unopposed.
Madam Chairman, motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, let's go.
I'll miss you guys.
That's all.
No, I'm over Tallahassee.
I'm like, going right- All right.
I got a bill here that
Am I back?
I'll get the butterfly.
Don't throw.
You turn that on. Becky, turn up the video. You did. You got it. Since you were in it, I just got your. You were done.
We did talk about it.